Chapter 1395. Long Yu only pondered for a while and quickly summarized a few key points. Then, he transmitted his thoughts to the Heaven-Fire Doyen. Senior, Little White told me that you are an extremely rare master of weapon refinement and formation in the human race and the demon race. However, you're only a 7th phase dominator cultivator after all. When Long Yu said that, the Heaven-Fire Doyen's mood immediately turned sour. Was he looking down on him? Of course, before the Heaven-Fire Doyen could refute, Long Yu said straightforwardly, there are many 7th phase dominator cultivators in the world. As long as you don't cross the threshold of the demigod level, you will be immortal. Compared to other cultivators, even if you are strong, there is a limit to how strong you are. There is no qualitative difference. Senior, I believe that what you want to do the most now is to step into the demigod level. As for the method, I believe you must have asked many people. Even the demigod seniors of the human race and the demon race have given you guidance. However, none of them could help you break through that step. When the Heaven-Fire Doyen heard this, he chuckled in disdain. So what? Little brat, could it be that you can help me break through to the demigod level? You really don't know your limits. Not to that extent. However, the force that I am in has the physical body of a demigod expert. Moreover, it is not an ordinary demigod, but a peak demigod. Long Yu transmitted his thoughts. Juyo Dragon Emperor. Senior, you should have heard of him, right? Juyo Dragon Emperor is in your force? How is that possible? Didn't that thing die a long time ago? When he heard Long Yu's words, the Heaven-Fire Doyen finally changed his tone. If he was not a cloud of fire and appeared in his original form, one would be able to see that his expression had changed. He died a long time ago. However, his physical body has been reconstructed. Moreover, it is now controlled by one of us. Long Yu said with a smile, Senior, you should know what this situation means. Heaven-Fire Doyen was silent for a while. Clearly, he understood Long Yu's words. He also knew what Long Yu's words meant. Juyo Dragon Emperor. Although Heaven-Fire Doyen was not particularly familiar with him, he had heard of him and knew that he was an ancient expert. His small world, the Netherworld realm, was rather famous among human beings. The Heaven-Fire Doyen knew very well what the body of an ancient demigod meant. Furthermore, the Juyo Dragon Emperor's body was actually controlled by Long Yu's people. If it was true, there was no doubt that Long Yu's force would have a powerful protection talisman. It must be noted that he was at the peak of the demigods. Without a doubt, the strength of such a force would definitely surpass the vast majority of the human race and demon race's forces. In fact, if they were to fight, even a large organization like the Bitterwalker Alliance would not be a match for Long Yu's force. There was no other reason other than the fact that the Juyo Dragon Emperor's body was controlled by Long Yu's people. This factor alone was enough for Long Yu's force to gain a foothold among the human race and demon race. Brat, is what you said true? The Heaven-Fire Doyen's telepathic thoughts were filled with solemnity. Although it was impossible for Long Yu to lie about such things because lying was useless, the Heaven-Fire Doyen still found it hard to believe. Of course it's true. With Little White's guarantee, are you still worried that I'm lying? Long Yu slightly smiled and nodded his head. He did not mention that the Juyo Dragon Emperor's body was currently being held back by the demigod stone statue of the multi-winged race and could only come out once every 3 months. This did not mean that Long Yu was lying. No matter what, the Juyo Dragon Emperor's body could indeed be regarded as the guardian of the forces in the Void Galaxy. Not bad, not bad. I'm a little interested now. Huh, little bastard, go on. The Heaven-Fire Doyen was rather satisfied. Originally, he was rather disdainful of Long Yu. However, now that the Juyo Dragon Emperor's body was controlled by Long Yu's people, the Heaven-Fire Doyen had a higher opinion of the force that Long Yu was in. No matter how difficult it was for such a force to develop, its achievements would not be too low. As a result, it would bring an increase in cultivation resources. Without a doubt, the force that Long Yu was in would not be lacking in cultivation resources. This was also what the Heaven-Fire Doyen was most interested in. Our force already has a powerful alchemist who has received the inheritance from the higher-ups of the Alliance of Suffers. His ability to refine elixirs is second to none. As long as he has the materials, he can refine any heaven-defying elixir. We just lack a weapon refiner and a formation master. Senior, you're just right. Long Yu continued. In other words, your force doesn't even have a weapon refiner? The Heaven Fire Doyen seemed to be very unhappy about this. We do have a weapon refiner, but their level is definitely not up to your standards, Senior. Long Yu shook his head. I know that Senior also wants to exchange pointers with others in order to further improve his weapon refining level, but this is only temporary. With the current conditions and strength of our force, we will definitely recruit more people in the future. Moreover, in the entire territory of the Human Clan and the Demon Clan, there are too few people who can study and discuss with you in the field of weapon refinement and formation. Can ordinary forces invite them? The meaning of Long Yu's words was that their force was strong and had good conditions. It would be easy for them to recruit people. It was not a problem. The Heaven Fire Doyen obviously knew what he meant. He chuckled. In terms of refining weapons, there are indeed not many who can compete with me. However, in terms of formations, I am not considered the best. You just need to find 2 formation masters for me, 2 exchange pointers. In terms of refining weapons, I can study it myself. I would also like to take in a few disciples, but I haven't found any suitable talents. Does Senior mean that you agree to join our force? Long Yu's eyes lit up as he asked. No, continue talking about your force. Also, if I want to join, I need you to agree to a condition. The Heaven Fire Doyen's spiritual force transmitted. You have to be my disciple and learn how to refine weapons from me. This old man could tell that you purposely stopped to refine your spiritual will when you're trying to break through this formation. In reality, this kind of talent is extremely good for refining weapons. You only need to comprehend and cultivate the fire-type primordial origin power for a while. Senior, I am not here to find a master. In terms of refining weapons, I know nothing at all. I'm afraid I will let you down. Long Yu was a little embarrassed. He didn't expect the Heaven Fire Doyen to really take a fancy to him. Long Yu's performance in the illusion array was indeed excellent. These illusion array were the tests left behind by the Heaven Fire Doyen. Firstly, Long Yu was able to break through the dual star turbulence alone with a martial Dao realm of a middle-level ruler. This already showed that Long Yu had a certain level of strength and special means. Secondly, he had consecutively broken through the mental illusion formation, which also meant that his mental willpower wasn't weak. He could even withstand the 24 mirror image clones of the Heaven Fire Doyen to touch the cluster of flames that was 10 miles away. The earlier one broke through the spiritual illusion array. The more talented one was in refining weapons. This was the illusion array that the Heaven Fire Doyen had created. Long Yu spent 30 days, but in fact, he had already met the requirements to break through the spirit array 10 days ago. He just wanted to hone his spiritual will, so he delayed until 30 days later. Without any suspense, the Heaven Fire Doyen already knew Long Yu's thoughts. He also knew that Long Yu's talent in refining weapons was definitely not weak. Therefore, he appreciated Long Yu's talent. This old man does not care about that. If you're not willing to be this old man's disciple, then you'll have to find someone with a talent comparable to you to be this old man's disciple. If that is the case, then I have another request that you must agree to. The Heaven Fire Doyen transmitted his spiritual force and gave Long Yu another choice. Long Yu pondered for a moment and asked, "What is the request? As for finding a disciple for you, it shouldn't be a problem. Our force has many geniuses and talents in various aspects. If you can't find one, I will be your disciple." Long Yu pondered for a moment. Among the people he knew, there were indeed many who had talent in refining weapons. He could just recruit them when the time came. In any case, although Long Yu's talent in refining weapons could meet the Heaven Fire Doyen's requirements, it was definitely not top-notch. This was something that Long Yu was very clear about. Including his talent in refining elixirs, Long Yu wasn't that great. He had learned refining elixirs for a period of time previously, but he had abandoned it later on. This was because Long Yu found refining elixirs too troublesome. Since Liao Lele was by his side, it didn't matter if Long Yu didn't know how to refine elixirs. If he needed elixirs, he could just get Liao Lele to refine them for him or buy them from the market. The request is to help this old man eliminate a person. This person's identity isn't too ordinary. He's a commander of a battlefield legion. The Heaven Fire Doyen chuckled and said, "What do you think of this request? Assassinate a commander of a battlefield legion?" Long Yu jumped in fright when he heard. This Heaven Fire Doyen's request was really bizarre. No wonder, even with the Heaven Fire Doyen's identity, he couldn't settle this matter. Turns out that the opponent was actually a commander of a battlefield legion. This matter was naturally impossible for the current Long Yu to accomplish. Disregarding the other party's identity, just the other party's strength of a rank 7 great ruler made it impossible for Long Yu to be his match. But in the future, it was hard to say. I have a first-rate honor badge. When I have enough strength, I can propose a life-and-death wager with your target. Long Yu thought about it and said to the Heaven Fire Doyen, "In this case, are you satisfied, senior? Yo, little bastard, you even have a first-rate honor badge. Not bad, not bad. Come and let this old man see if it's a fake or not." The Heaven Fire Doyen's eyes lit up, and he transmitted his divine sense straightforwardly. Long Yu took out that first-rate honor badge. The fire cloud that the Heaven Fire Doyen transformed into instantly lit up. Clearly, he was delighted in his heart. With this thing, I can challenge that stinking brat in a life-and-death wager. Not bad, not bad, not bad. The Heaven Fire Doyen laughed heartily. Chapter 1396. First-class honor badge represented the highest honor in the territories of the human race and the demon race. It was an honor that could only be awarded by demigod experts after one had made a great contribution to the human race and the demon race. In the entire territories of the human race and the demon race, there were less than 100 people who could receive a first-class honor badge. From this, it could be seen how rare a first-class honor badge was. Most importantly, a first-class honor badge had many privileges. One of them was the unconditional life-and-death duel with anyone in the territories of the human race and the demon race. Just like now, one of the enemies of the Heaven Fire Doyen was a 7th phase Dominator commander of the army on the battlefield. If the Heaven Fire Doyen was left to himself, it would be impossible for him to kill the other party. Firstly, both parties had similar martial arts realms. Both were 7th phase Dominator cultivators. It was already very difficult to kill the other party. At least, if the other party wanted to escape, it would be a piece of cake. Secondly, the other party had the background of the army on the battlefield. Just a little bit of power would be enough to make the Heaven Fire Doyen very uncomfortable. This was the difference between an unaffiliated cultivator and a cultivator with a background. Because of this, the Heaven Fire Doyen had buried this matter in his heart and did not dare to take action. He had been looking for an opportunity to get rid of his opponent, but he never had a good opportunity. This was because in the recent years, the battle between the human race and the alien race was rather intense. The Heaven Fire Doyen's opponent had always been active on the battlefield. It was impossible for him to find the time to deal with the other party. Now that he heard that Long Yu had a first-class honor badge, this matter became much more convenient. The Heaven Fire Doyen had thought of many methods before. In the end, this was the only method that could allow him to get rid of his opponent justifiably. That was to find a person with a first-class honor badge and ask him to help him in a life-and-death duel with his enemy. However, how could it be so easy? Firstly, the cultivators who could make great contributions on the battlefield of the alien race and obtain a first-class honor badge were at least 7th phase dominators. In terms of combat power, most of them were much stronger than the Heaven Fire Doyen. Secondly, the cultivators who could obtain a first-class honor badge were all responsible for protecting the territories of the human race and the demon race. It was impossible for them to challenge and kill a commander of the army on the battlefield for the Heaven Fire Doyen. With all these conditions added together, it made it impossible for the Heaven Fire Doyen to find a chance to take revenge. Now, the Heaven Fire Doyen had proposed this condition because he wanted Long Yu to let the Juyo Dragon Emperor's physical body take action. After all, the Juyo Dragon Emperor's physical body was extremely powerful. As long as he was willing to take action, Even the demigods of the human race and the demon race might not be able to stop him from killing the enemy commander. But now, he did not expect Long Yu to have a first-class honor badge. This really shocked him. He had seen a few people who had a first-class honor medal, but he had never seen anyone who was as young as Long Yu. Moreover, his martial arts realm was so low. However, when he looked at the level 1 honor badge and sensed the vague air of a demigod on it, he knew that it was authentic and not a counterfeit. In other words, a weakling like Long Yu would never dare to forge a first-class honor badge. Otherwise, he would definitely lose his life if he was caught. Sure. Little bastard, I am getting more and more interested in you. Where did you get this first-class honor badge? Don't tell me, little bastard, you've killed countless outsiders before? Heaven Fire Doyen's fire cloud finally began to dissipate. Following that, an old figure appeared in the fire cloud. It was a figure surrounded by flames. Although he was old, he was extremely upright. He was in high spirits. The face of the Heaven Fire Doyen also looked old. There were some wrinkles on his face. It could be seen that he was quite old. If he could not break through to the demigod realm in the near future, his lifespan might come to an end. Ordinary 7th phase dominators usually had a lifespan of more than 1,000 years. It could be seen that the Heaven Fire Doyen had probably lived for more than 1,000 years. Therefore, Long Yu could also tell and easily deduce that for the Heaven Fire Doyen, the most important thing was to break through to the demigod realm. Only then would he be able to extend his lifespan and give him a chance to enjoy a longer life. Even a 7th phase dominator had a limited lifespan. There was no doubt that this was the cruelest thing in the world. Be it humans, demons, mortals, or cultivators, everyone would die. It was just a matter of sooner or later. Senior, haven't you heard that about half a year ago, 3 demigods of alien races were killed on the battlefield of the alien races in the demon territory? Long Yu was a little curious. This matter had spread in the demon territory. Similarly, everyone in the demigod college knew about it. It could be guessed that it was not a secret matter in the human territory. It must have spread everywhere. The Heaven Fire Doyen actually did not know about it. Could it be that the Heaven Fire Doyen did not come into contact with anyone previously, so he did not receive this news? I have heard of this matter. However, the 3 demigods of alien races were killed. Could it be that you did it? Heaven Fire Doyen's figure appeared. Flames enveloped his entire body, making his expression blurry. It was hard to tell if he was real or not. Although I did not do it, it had a lot to do with me. Originally, the 3 demigods of alien races were going to ambush the outer galaxy of the demon race, but I stalled them in the space-time tunnel. Later, the demigod seniors of the demon race came and killed the 3 demigods separately. As he spoke, Long Yu recalled the situation at that time. In fact, the situation was quite complicated. After all, it involved the sacred relic of the Ice God clan and the states of the 3 demigods of alien races. They were all created by Long Yu for the demigods of the demon race and were the best conditions to kill them separately. To put it simply, without Long Yu, the 3 demigods of alien races would not have been killed so easily. However, because of Long Yu, the demigods of the demon race took advantage of the gap in the game and killed them one by one. They could barely resist. Hearing Long Yu's words, the Heaven Fire Doyen was even more curious about him. He had only heard that demigods of the Ice God clan were killed before, but he did not expect that it would be related to this young man named Long Yu. Unexpected. Not bad. Little brat, you are indeed qualified to establish a force. The Heaven Fire Doyen finally confirmed Long Yu's ability. There was some emotion in his old voice. Obviously, he was sighing for himself. He had lived for more than 1,000 years, but he had never confronted a demigod before, let alone stalled the 3 demigods of alien races like Long Yu did and bought time for the demigod experts of the demon race. At that time, not to mention other weak scumbags like Long Yu, even if any 7th phase great dominator faced the same situation as Long Yu, it would be difficult for him to do what Long Yu did. Of course, the Heaven Fire Doyen did not know that Long Yu was able to make the demigods of alien races panic because he had the holy relic of the Ice God clan. However, No matter what method he used, Long Yu succeeded in the end. And this became the first major event for his rise in the territory of the human race and the demon race. Then, let's make a deal. Either you become my disciple, or you find someone else to be my disciple and kill my opponent. As long as you agree, I will join the force you are in. The Heaven Fire Doyen did not ask where Long Yu's force was, what it was called, or what other people there were. This was because the Heaven Fire Doyen knew very well that these things could be said to be some of the secrets of the force Long Yu was in. If he did not join it, it was impossible for Long Yu to tell him these things. Until now, the Heaven Fire Doyen had not heard about the Geo Dragon Emperor's physical body, so it was obvious that Long Yu had been very secretive about this matter. Although the Heaven Fire Doyen had a strange temper, he would still speak and act in consideration of others. It was just that he was a bit crazy. Once he entered the state of refining weapons, no one could call him out of that state. If he was forcibly disturbed, the Heaven Fire Doyen would instantly turn hostile to his good friends, of course. This was not known to Long Yu yet, but it did not stop him from inviting the Heaven Fire Doyen to join his force in the Void Galaxy. Anyway, what Long Yu needed was the Heaven Fire Doyen's ability to refine weapons and his ability to set up spirit arrays. Of course, the Heaven Fire Doyen's spirit arrays were not top-notch, but they could be said to be not bad. At least in the Void Galaxy, no one's spirit array ability surpassed the standards of the Heaven Fire Doyen. Hold on, Senior. You have to tell me first, who was the commander of the army on the battlefield? Long Yu was not in a hurry to agree. Instead, he straightforwardly asked, "It's a damn dwarf called Chi Bei Fei. You can ask around in the army on the battlefield. Don't think that this kid is righteous just because he is the commander of the army on the battlefield. This guy is sinister and has done many shameless things." When the Heaven Fire Doyen said this, his eyes shone with even more intense flames. This was the anger that spewed out from his heart. From the tone of the Heaven Fire Doyen, Long Yu roughly knew that the commander of the army on the battlefield, Chi Bei Fei, had once harmed the Heaven Fire Doyen. As for the specifics, Long Yu could not guess. The Heaven Fire Doyen had also said that he could find out what Chi Bei Fei had done by asking around in the army on the battlefield. Long Yu decided that when he reached the army on the battlefield, he would look for his father, Long Zaiqian, while asking around for news of Chi Bei Fei. It should not take long. When he saw Long Zaiqian, Long Yu had to find out why Long Zaiqian had abandoned him and his mother, Bei Yuyao, to become the leader of the Ascetic Walkers Alliance and the commander of the human race's army on the battlefield. Chapter 1397. At this point, the matter was basically settled. There was no doubt that the Heaven Fire Doyen would join the Void Galaxy. Chi Bei Fei. I'll remember this name. However, I'm afraid you'll have to wait for a while before I have the ability to challenge this person. Long Yu said to the Heaven Fire Doyen solemnly. Sure, since we've agreed on it, tell me how to get to the power that you belong to. The Heaven Fire Doyen suppressed the anger in his heart and asked Long Yu, "If there's nothing else, why don't you come with me?" Long Yu said with a smile, "Even a demigod can't pass that place without someone who knows the way. I won't be going back in the next year. After all, I'm a student of the Demigod College. I have to complete my 1-year training. This old man is very busy. However, in your little world, as long as you can cultivate in peace, everything else is up to you." The Heaven Fire Doyen nodded. He didn't have any objections to Long Yu's suggestion. After all, he carried many materials for refining weapons and setting up formations with him. If Long Yu allowed him to stay in the small world, the Heaven Fire Doyen wouldn't have anything to worry about. He could just focus on his own things. The most important thing was refining weapons. This was something he had to do. Only by doing this could he ensure that his refining skills would always be at the forefront of the human clan and the demon clan. After the two sides finished their discussion, Heaven Fire Doyen brought all sorts of materials and entered Long Yu's small world. Obviously, the Heaven Fire Doyen clicked his tongue again when he saw the 9 Hell Steel. After all, he could feel the formidable power in the 9 Hell Steel. Long Yu could actually refine the 9 Hell Steel into his own small world mark. He was indeed extraordinary. With the small world mark alone, Long Yu had surpassed almost everyone in the human clan and the demon clan. Of course, the Heaven Fire Doyen could only vaguely feel the power in the 9 Hell Steel. He couldn't tell exactly what level the 9 Hell Steel was. Naturally, Long Yu would not explain to him. After all, this was Long Yu's business, and it had nothing to do with the Heaven Fire Doyen. It's finally done, Long Yu thought to himself and sighed. It had taken a lot of time to invite this Heaven Fire Doyen to the Void Galaxy. For months passed just like that. During this period of time, Long Yu's strength had increased very clearly. First of all, his cultivation base had increased from a lower ruler to a middle ruler, which had increased his basic strength by 3 to 5 times. Then there was the fact that Long Yu had cultivated his war-braving body to the transcendent level and his unbounded grasp to the consummate level. Those 2 high-grade, unbounded techniques would be a huge boost to Long Yu's fighting prowess. Finally, Long Yu had upgraded his martial path secret technique, the worldly purification body, to the peak of the 9th level and derived a martial path secret technique, the worldly purification soul mirror. This technique could be used to reflect the mental attack and control effects of an opponent on Long Yu tenfold. It was the key to turning defeat into victory in a dangerous situation. Apart from that, Long Yu's spiritual willpower had also been tempered and improved. In the past 4 months, he had indeed improved a lot. Furthermore, his understanding of the metal elemental Genesis power and the Enlightenment Level 9 Nether Divine text had increased by a large margin. The effect on his strength was extremely obvious. The twin stars of the Dragon and Phoenix, the Dragon Core Star and the Phoenix Core Star. The turbulence between these 2 stars could not stop Long Yu from coming and going. When the Heaven Fire Doyen arrived in Long Yu's small world, Long Yu directly entered the inner space of the Void Nether Dragon Blade and left the region of the Twin Stars' turbulence. After passing through the turbulence of the power of the Twin Stars, Long Yu got in touch with Red Oriole. In the past 4 months, Red Oriole and Moonsong had been acting together and had completed the trials of several demigod academies. Sometimes it was just the 2 of them, and sometimes other people would come with them. Over the course of such a long time, Red Oriole alone had accumulated more than 10 million battle merit points. She hadn't spent them yet, but rather saved them up for the next batch of Godspan wine that would appear in 2 months. Long Yu was a little anxious after hearing that. There were only 2 months left before the next batch of divine liquor appeared, but he did not have enough battlefield army merits with him yet. He had only completed one thing at the moment, and the matter with his father, Long Zaiqian, had not been resolved yet. He could not return to the demigod academies for the time being, so he could only wait for the accumulation of battlefield army merits. Destination: Battlefield Army, 1st Extraterrestrial Sector. Long Yu did not go to meet Red Oriole and Moonsong immediately, because they were currently training in another demigod academy and were still some distance away. It was impossible for them to come over immediately. Moreover, there was no need for them to meet. Long Yu had to finish his own things first. In that case, it would be best if he could catch up with the 2 girls to finish their training and return to the demigod academy together. I hope I won't run into any trouble when I go to Long Zaiqian. Thinking to himself, Long Yu flew back to Dragon Pill Planet at top speed. When he arrived, he found a teleportation array with a space-time imprint. Then he showed his first-class honor badge and directly activated the teleportation array, quickly approaching the 1st Extraterrestrial Sector. Long Yu had already seen the battlefield of the alien race in the demon territory. It was indeed full of danger, and they were facing great enemies of the human race and the demon race. If the alien race encountered the human race and the demon race, they would not show the slightest mercy. Now, Long Yu rushed to the battlefield of the alien race again, but his mood was completely different from the first time. At this moment, he was thinking about his father, Long Zaiqian, and he also wanted to ask about the commander of the army, Qi Beifei. It was not difficult to find information, but it was not so easy to meet Long Zaiqian. After teleporting 7 times through the space-time imprint, Long Yu finally landed on the main planet of the 1st Extraterrestrial Sector. This main planet was the largest training planet in the 1st Extraterrestrial Sector. As usual, a human demigod was guarding this planet, and he had built the entire first extraterrestrial sector into a solid fortress. Long Yu did not come to find this human demigod, but he did not know where Long Zaiqian was right now, so he could only come to this main planet first. Whether it was to ask about Long Zaiqian or Qi Beifei, it would be a good choice. After all, the more people, the better the information would be. It shouldn't be too difficult, Long Yu thought in his heart. After all, he wanted to inquire about Long Zaiqian and Qi Beifei. They were not some secret characters, nor was it any secret information. It should not be difficult to inquire about them. He just did not know whether Long Zaiqian and Qi Beifei were on this main planet now. After all, the battle between the human race and the Fire God clan was very fierce. The front line of the alien race was in a stalemate, so it was unlikely that there would be too many commanders of the alien race guarding the rear. When Long Yu came to the main planet, he first found a restaurant, and then took out some ancient and arcane elixirs. These elixirs were nothing to Long Yu, because he had too many of them. But if he took out these elixirs and gave them to ordinary cultivators, even ordinary great sovereigns, they would feel as if they had obtained the most precious treasure. After all, not everyone was as rich as Long Yu. Relying on these elixirs, Long Yu began to inquire about Long Zaiqian and Qi Beifei in the restaurant. Anyway, the two should not be too close, so it would not be a problem for Long Yu to inquire about them at the same time. But very quickly, the news that Long Yu inquired about made him suddenly embarrassed and stunned. Long Zaiqian and Qi Beifei are famous brave commanders in the first outer domain galaxy of a human race. These two are really amazing. They once jointly led their respective sovereigns and defeated a total of 5 sovereigns of the Fire God clan. They are heroes. It is said that Long Zaiqian and Qi Beifei are very good brothers, but we do not know the details. After all, that is the business of their commanders, and our level is too low to get in touch with them. Long Zaiqian is my idol. Right now, he is not on the main star of the first outer domain galaxy, but on the battlefield of the foreign races, fighting against the Fire God clan. If you want to find him, you have to go to the foreign races battlefield. Although Qi Beifei is brave and good at fighting on the battlefield, his character is really not that good. I've heard quite a few rumors about him, and every one of them makes people gnash their teeth in hatred. Feng Lu Beifei is quite famous in the first outer domain galaxy of the human race, but right now, this big shot should not be on a main star. Recently, the Fire God clan has been attacking fiercely, and most of the commanders of the sovereigns have gone to the front line to fight against the foreign races. After inquiring about it, Long Yu learned that Qi Beifei had a nickname, Feng Lu Beifei. It seemed that he was a person who owed a lot of romantic debts. Long Yu couldn't help but wonder if the enmity between the Heaven Fire Doyen and Qi Beifei was related to women. Long Yu didn't make too many guesses about this, because he was quickly stunned. When he found out that Qi Beifei and Long Zaiqian's relationship was very good, like brothers, his heart was in a mess. This situation was unexpected. He did not expect that Qi Beifei would be a friend of his father, Long Zaiqian. Although this possibility was not very high, it was still possible. After all, both of them were commanders on the battlefield of the foreign races, so it was certain that they knew each other. However, Long Yu did not expect that the two of them would have a good relationship. This made Long Yu feel a little conflicted. Now, he had promised Heaven Fire Doyen to help him get rid of Qi Beifei. But on the other hand, his father, Long Zaiqian, was a good friend of Qi Beifei's. Long Yu did not know what was going on with Long Zaiqian. If he could successfully make up with Long Zaiqian, how would he deal with Qi Beifei? Chapter 1398. The news that Long Yu received regarding Qi Beifei and Long Zaiqian made him feel rather melancholy. However, he didn't have to face this problem in the short term. After all, there was still a long time before he could defeat Qi Beifei and challenge him to a life-and-death duel. The first thing that Long Yu needed to do now was to find Long Zaiqian and ask him about what happened in the past. Then, he would continue to train in the Demigod Academy to improve his strength. Red Oriole received news that she had already stepped into the third phase, Sovereign Realm. Basically, Her improvement speed was almost the same as Long Yu's. Every time Long Yu advanced a level in the martial Dao realm, she would also advance a level in the martial Dao realm. At this rate, Red Oriole would become a 7th-stage great ruler in a year or two. Red Oriole's speed sounded very fast, but in reality, this speed was only considered normal among geniuses. For example, Consort Yu was about the same age as Red Oriole. She was only 1 or 2 years older than Red Oriole, but she was already a 7th-phase sovereign expert. In fact, she was even at the peak of the 7th-phase sovereign realm. Therefore, the speed at which Consort Yu's martial realm improved could only be described as an ordinary genius. In fact, the speed at which Long Yu's martial realm improved was already on the slow side for a true genius. Of course, he wasn't in a hurry. After all, the creation item was enough for him. What he needed to worry about was whether he could control the sudden increase in power after he improved. When he heard about Long Zaiqian and Qi Beifei, he entered the headquarters of the army in the first outer domain galaxy alone. The reason why he was able to enter this place was naturally because of a first-class honor badge. The news that he was here was not spread out. After all, it had been a long time since he stalled 3 alien demigods on the battlefield of the Ice God clan. He was no longer the focus of countless people. After entering the headquarters, Long Yu headed straight for the trading center. He had to replenish the cultivation resources he needed before heading to the foreign battlefield to find Long Zaiqian. Due to the first-class honor badge, although he didn't do anything in the past 4 months, he still gained 500,000 battle merits every month. Therefore, he now had a total of 2 million battlefield merits. If Long Yu were to use these battlefield army merit points to exchange for creation items, he would be able to attempt to break through to the martial Dao realm of a superior ruler. Over the past 4 months, he had already grasped enough of his own strength. Raising his martial Dao realm now would not cause any hidden dangers along the way. Recently, Long Yu's strength had improved very rapidly. However, he focused on stability. He had accumulated all this time, and his strength had finally exploded during this period, allowing his strength to grow explosively. After arriving at the trading area, Long Yu went straight to the place where the creation items were traded and began to choose some heavenly crystal-level creation items. With 2 million battlefield army merit points, it was rather difficult to choose a higher grade heaven crystal rank creation item. However, Long Yu didn't need a lot of creation power if he wanted to advance from a middle dominator to a high dominator. 2 million battlefield merits can only be exchanged for a 4th grade heavenly crystal level creation item. It's still a bit lacking if I want to raise my martial realm. However, I can take out other things to exchange for it, Long Yu thought to himself. He had obtained a lot of materials from the ancient foreign ruins of the multi-winged race, but he didn't hand them over to the headquarters of the battlefield army. Now, he took out many materials like the Genesis Golden Crystal. If he wanted to use them to exchange for battlefield army merit, he had to at least get a heaven crystal level creation item that could help him increase his martial arts realm. These things were extremely valuable. Long Yu didn't take them out at that time because the demigod corpses of the foreign races were enough for him to exchange for the cultivation resources needed for the development of the entire force in the Void Galaxy. As for these things, he would keep them for Long Yu's own use. Many of them could be given to the Heaven Fire Doyen to refine weapons, but the Heaven Fire Doyen alone couldn't use so many. It should be noted that what Long Yu had on him was the weapon refining materials obtained from the tomb of the demigods of the multi-winged race, as well as the materials from their altar. The total amount was simply too much. Right now, Long Yu only needed to exchange 1/10 of it for at least 10 million battlefield army merit points, which he could use to purchase 2 items of creation. From there, he could absorb the power of creation within and increase his martial arts realm. If he didn't need them, Long Yu wouldn't want to exchange for these rare materials. After all, these materials weren't easy to come by, and if he wanted them in the future, he would obviously lose a lot of money. But now, Long Yu still focused on his martial realm. The most important thing was to step into the higher sovereign realm as soon as possible. By the time Long Yu came out of the army headquarters on the battlefield, he had already exchanged for what he needed. 2 Heaven Crystal Grade, 3rd Grade Creation Items. The creation power contained within them was enough to raise his martial realm to the level of a higher-level ruler. Long Yu's next goal was to go to the battlefield of the foreign races to find Long Zaiqian and raise his martial realm at the same time. The two didn't conflict with each other and could be done at the same time. After leaving the battlefield army headquarters, Long Yu found the space-time imprint teleportation array and continuously teleported to the battlefield of the foreign races. Previously in the battlefield army headquarters, he had already heard some news. The flames of war were raging on the battlefield of the foreign races. Both the fire god race and the human race were doing a lot of things on the defense line on the battlefield of the foreign races. Recently, several battlefield fortresses on both sides had started a series of battles in a certain area. Long Zaiqian was now assigned to that area and was responsible for the defense of a certain direction. It would take at least 10 days for Long Yu to reach the battlefield fortress nearby. During this period of time, it was enough for him to absorb the 2 3rd-grade Heaven Crystal Grade creation items and raise his martial realm to the higher sovereign realm. First, Long Yu used the space-time imprint teleportation array to teleport 6 times. He was directly teleported from the main planet of the first outer galaxy to the edge of the first outer galaxy. Further ahead was the battlefield of the foreign races. Without the space-time imprint teleportation array to teleport him, he could only slowly fly there alone. Long Yu returned to the inner space of the Void Nether Dragon Blade and let Little Void carry him forward. Through the method of void travel, his speed was much faster than other cultivators. At the very least, ordinary low-level sovereigns couldn't match Long Yu's speed. It should be known that Long Yu's Void Nether Dragon Blade wasn't an ordinary weapon. It was a special absolute beginning divine grade weapon that was extremely rare in the world. It was an existence that had been smelted in the absolute beginning furnace. Long Yu absorbed the Heaven Crystal Grade creation items in the inner space of the Void Nether Dragon Blade with peace of mind. He expanded his small world from the size of 20 billion kilometers to the size of 30 billion kilometers. The main difference between a middle sovereign and a high sovereign was the size of the small world. This brought about the difference in the basic strength of the two sides. During the journey, Long Yu focused all his attention on absorbing the creation energy. Little Void was constantly on guard around the surroundings. After all, this area was already the battlefield of the foreign races. It was an extremely chaotic area. No matter where and when, foreign race cultivators could appear. It was especially easy for people from the Fire God race to appear in this area. Once they encountered them, the most likely outcome would be a fight to the death. If they really weren't a match for them, they could try to escape. However, if they really weren't a match for them, it was very likely that they wouldn't even be able to escape. After arriving in this area, as the Void Nether Dragon Blade continued to move deeper into the battlefield of the foreign races, Little Void constantly sensed the aura of the Fire God race floating in the surrounding space. This kind of aura was still relatively sensitive to Little Void. He could easily sense it. Under most circumstances, if a member of the Fire God race appeared at a close distance, Little Void would be able to sense it. As for Long Yu, because his mind was connected to Little Void's, even though he was wholeheartedly immersed in the process of raising his martial arts realm, once Little Void discovered something, he could immediately wake up. On the battlefield of the foreign races, where the flames of war were raging, a deathly stillness constantly spread out. It could be seen that many foreign races and human warriors had died in this place in the past. The desolate aura spread throughout the entire battlefield of the foreign races. Little Void couldn't help but be affected by it, feeling a tragic and stirring mood. No matter who it was, they would probably feel the same way when they came here. Along the way, they also saw many human cultivators forming teams, patrolling and cleaning the battlefield of the foreign races. Once they found an invading member of the Fire God race, they would kill it and go back to report on their mission, receiving a relatively high reward for the experience. These human cultivators' teams sometimes mistook the Void Nether Dragon Blade as an enemy. However, when they found that the void nether dragon blade didn't emit the power of the divine characters of the fire attribute, they knew that it couldn't be something of the fire god race. The biggest characteristic of the fire god race and the ice god race was that very few individuals in the race could comprehend the power of the divine characters of other attributes. This included the 5 elements of the origin. Once awakened, it would be the origin power of the water element or the origin power of the fire element. Basically, the power that the entire race could comprehend was relatively simple. This didn't mean that the outer god race was weak. Instead, it meant that they were more proficient in divine characters of a single attribute than the human race and the demon race. As the void nether dragon blade went deeper and deeper, the chilling aura of the battlefield continued to surge, enveloping the void nether dragon blade. 5 days passed. Long Yu, who was cultivating in the space inside the void nether dragon blade, finally made another breakthrough. Chapter 1399. Advancing from a middle-level ruler to a high-level ruler took about 3 months. To Long Yu, this was enough time for him to familiarize himself with his own strength. At the very least, he had to reach the point where he could use it as if it was his own arm before he could continue improving. Now, he finally became a high-level dominator and was only a step away from the realm of great dominator. Although the speed wasn't very fast for those peak geniuses, it was a speed that most people couldn't reach. My basic power has increased by 3 times again. This was the biggest change that happened to Long Yu after he became a high-level dominator. His strength had increased greatly, and all aspects of his combat strength had increased at the same time. The increase in martial realm was the most comprehensive increase for a cultivator. His small world had already expanded to a radius of 30 billion kilometers. If he wanted to become a great dominator, he had to expand his small world to at least 50 billion kilometers. It was impossible for Long Yu to break through to first stage Great Dominator in a short period of time. Although there weren't any bottlenecks for him, just the amount of creation power needed to expand his small world was at least 10 times more than when he went from middle-level Dominator to high-level Dominator. Great Dominator, let's not think about it for now. Long Yu had his own cultivation plan. He wasn't in a rush for quick results. After all, now that he was a high-level dominator, he wouldn't be at too much of a disadvantage even if he faced ordinary second or third stage dominators. He didn't have to worry about his combat strength, so there was no need to spoil things through excessive enthusiasm and destabilize his foundation. Moreover, he didn't have enough contribution points to exchange for enough creation items. If he was in too much of a hurry, he would need more things, and the gains wouldn't make up for the losses. Right now, there were still many areas that Long Yu could improve in, but he didn't have the time to focus on improving those areas. The Nether Void Dragon Blade traversed through the battlefield of the foreign races. Very quickly, a few more days passed. The aura of war in front of them grew thicker and thicker. Several battlefields belonging to the human race finally appeared in front of Long Yu. Here, human clan cultivators and demon clan cultivators could be seen everywhere. Around Long Yu, there were human clan and demon clan cultivators coming in and out of the battlefield fortress at any time. It was impossible for the fire god race to come near here. Once they came near, they would be killed by the combined forces of human and demon cultivators. Not far from here, in the battlefield of the other races, there was a fire god race battlefield, confronting 4 battlefields of the human race. As for the actual situation, Long Yu didn't know. He came here to find his father, Long Zaiqian. As for the battle situation, Long Yu wasn't particularly concerned. After all, this stalemate situation had lasted for decades. It wasn't likely to change in a short time. Long Yu chose a steel-styled human battlefield fortress and flew straight towards it. With a first-class honor badge as his entry pass, Long Yu could easily enter the fortress. Long Yu didn't know which battlefield of Long Zaiqian was in, so he had to go to one of the battlefield of Long. With the authority of a first-class honor badge, it was impossible to refuse a request to ask the commander's whereabouts. Soon, Long Yu stepped into the interior of this iron battlefield fortress and went to the experience mission hall. Since he was looking for someone, he could first ask about Long Zitian's whereabouts. If it was convenient, he could also take on experience mission. If he could get some battlefield military merit, it would be a waste not to take it. May I ask where Commander Long Zitian is now? Long Yu came to the management office of the mission hall, then showed his first-class honor badge and asked his question directly. This question made the personnel of the battlefield fortress in the management office raise their heads and look at Long Yu. When they saw the first-class honor badge in Long Yu's hand, their expressions changed slightly. Then one of them said to Long Yu with a solemn expression, "Commander Long is now fighting and accepted a temporary mission. May I ask who you are?" "I'm Long Yu. I have something to ask him." That was all Long Yu could say. He couldn't possibly say that he was Long Zitian's long-lost son, could he? So it's Long Yu. In that case, you can either wait here for Commander Long or head to the area where he is fighting. The person glanced at Long Yu and said, "With your martial arts realm, I suggest you wait here. Commander Long's mission should last for a long time, and it is very dangerous. If you go there, I'm afraid your life will be in danger." This person's reminder was good, but Long Yu wasn't the kind of person who liked to wait. "It's fine. Tell me where he went, and I could try to find him," Long Yu said with a smile. "Are you sure?" The staff's expression changed slightly. Yes, Long Yu nodded. He had even seen alien demigods, so what else could he be afraid of? "Then wait a moment. We still have an experience mission here, and it has some connection with Commander Long's mission. If you want to go there, I will give this mission to you. Of course, you won't be able to do it alone. You have to find some strong companions." The person still had doubts about Long Yu's strength. After all, he was only a superior dominator. Under normal circumstances, it was indeed impossible for him to complete the strategic mission that he was about to issue that could only be done by a great dominator. "Don't worry, I have a way." Long Yu thought of the Heaven-Fire Doyen in his small world, who was at the peak of the 7th phase great dominator, so he wasn't afraid of any accidents at all. Unless he encountered another alien demigod, his life would be in no danger at all. "Since that's the case, you can receive this jade slip." Seeing that Long Yu was so insistent, the person didn't say anything else. After all, he had heard of Long Yu's name. He knew that this person had confronted alien demigods, so he didn't think too much about it. Not everyone could accept the jade slip of a strategic mission. At the very least, one had to be a powerful cultivator with a third-class honor badge to be qualified to accept it. After receiving the jade slip, Long Yu glanced at it and found that the content of the mission was very simple. It was a rescue mission. The jade slip said that an army of dominators was trapped by the fire god race in a certain place and couldn't break out. Someone needed to set up a space-time array nearby so that they could directly teleport out. This strategic mission was very simple. Long Yu only needed to follow the method recorded in the jade slip and set up a space-time array near the besieged army of dominators. The other party could then use the power of the array to teleport out. However, it was very difficult because the place where the army of dominators was besieged was located in the depths of the alien battlefield. Nearby, they could be attacked by the army of the fire god race at any time. In addition, the place where the army of dominators was besieged wasn't far from where Long Zitian was. If Long Yu want to find Long Zitian, he could first rescue the army of dominators and then follow the army of dominators to find Long Zitian. Although it didn't seem very good for Long Yu to find Long Zitian in the middle of an intense battle, Long Zitian was the commander of the army of dominators, and he was constantly in the process of fighting. If Long Yu wanted to wait for Long Zitian to return, he definitely wouldn't be able to do so in a short period of time. He could only go out and find Long Zitian himself. After accepting this strategic mission, Long Yu left the Iron Battlefield Fortress and headed into the depths of the alien battlefield. He entered the inner space of the Void Dragon Blade, and Little Void led him forward. Although the jade slip that Long Yu had obtained indicated the place where the army of dominators was besieged, it didn't allow Long Yu to directly teleport there. He could only slowly go there himself. In the battlefield of the alien race, space-time teleportation couldn't be used casually. Otherwise, the alien race would find the spatial coordinates of the people on their side and the other side would use some kind of method to attack and occupy it. So long you could only let Little Void move forward slowly. Fortunately, the Void Dragon Blade was filled with water-type primordial power, which was the most primitive space-time divine rune power. Through the void, it could instantly teleport hundreds of thousands of miles. In the blink of an eye, Long Yu had already teleported millions of miles away and was completely deep in the alien battlefield. Here, danger was everywhere, and every step was dangerous. The army of the Fire God race could appear in front of Long Yu at any time. No matter which direction he went, it was no longer a safe place, and a large number of enemies of the Fire God race could appear at any time. And Long Yu was about 3 days away from the location of his strategic mission. In these 3 days, the danger that Long Yu faced was extremely great. If he was not careful, he could be blocked by the Fire God race and be dragged into battle. Long Yu had the Void Dragon Blade, which was a good situation. If it were someone else, just to reach the place where the army of Dominators was besieged would take 3 to 5 days. Along the way, there might even be a leak of information, causing the entire mission to fail. After all, if the people of the Fire God race knew about this strategic mission, they wouldn't be able to take advantage of it. Long Yu continued to move forward, deep into the alien battlefield. Even the next day, Long Yu saw several groups of alien members of the Fire God race. Their bodies were full of fire-type divine rune power, and when they saw the Void Dragon Blade, they wanted to rush over and kill. Fortunately, Little Void reacted quickly. When he saw the Fire God race in the vicinity, he immediately activated water-type primordial power and continued to use the Void to teleport away. In this way, as long as he didn't encounter an opponent that was too strong, the Void Dragon Blade and Long Yu could directly avoid them, and the other party wouldn't be able to obtain any information about him. After continuing like this for 2 days, there was only 1 day left before Long Yu could reach the place where the army of Dominators was besieged. It was also at this time that trouble finally arrived. Chapter 1400. Just as Long Yu was a day away from the encirclement of the Ruler Legion, he finally ran into an accident. A spatial barrier appeared in front of him. The spatial barrier was covered with extremely mysterious flame patterns. It was actually not a simple spatial barrier, but a flame spatial barrier. Even with the 9 underworld path, Long Yu could only disintegrate the spatial divine characters within the barrier. He was unable to deal with the flame divine characters. Long Yu sensed a little. That flaming spatial barrier was definitely condensed by 7th phase Great Ruler. If he were to touch the power of the flaming divine runes, he would definitely be smashed to pieces. In other words, he had no way of passing through the flame spatial barrier and continuing forward. He was still about half a day away from setting up the teleportation formation required by the strategic mission. Long Yu had to pass through this distance no matter what. Otherwise, he would not be able to complete the strategic mission. Clearly, the Fire God race had also thought of such a situation. They had surrounded the Ruler Legion, so they would naturally think of people coming to their rescue. This way, they could form a flame spatial barrier around them, which would prevent the vast majority of human and monster cultivators from bringing teleportation formations over to set up. Only the experts of the human and monster races would be able to pass through the flame spatial barrier. To Long Yu, this barrier wasn't the most crucial difficulty. After all, he could use the Book of Shadows' divine ability to see if he could deceive and pass through the barrier. Most importantly, when the Void Nether Dragon Blade arrived in front of the flame spatial barrier, it immediately attracted the attention of a group of foreign Fire God race members nearby. This group of foreign Fire God race members didn't have very high martial cultivation. They should be a small squad of some Ruler Legion. The leader of the Fire God race members had the cultivation of a first phase ruler, while the rest of the Fire God race members had the strength of a middle or upper ruler. Apart from the first phase ruler Fire God race member, there were a total of 10 other foreign Fire God race members that flew towards the Void Nether Dragon Blade. Their mission was to stop any human or demon from passing through the barrier. Now that a Nether Void Dragon Blade had appeared with the aura of a human cultivator, they would naturally not allow it to appear and escape. In the face of such a situation, Suke was ready to escape, but the dragon dispelled the idea. That was because it was obvious that there were many members of the fire god race scattered all around the flaming spatial barrier. If Long Yu were to run, even if he could escape, he would still face the pursuit of the other members of the fire god race. After all, he didn't really want to escape. He just wanted to avoid this area and pass through the flaming spatial barrier in another direction. If not for the mission, Long Yu would have really run away, but since he had accepted the strategic mission handed over by the army on the battlefield, he could not back down. What's more, Long Yu might not necessarily be a match for this group of fire god race. It just so happened that he had risen to the level of a higher ruler. His various techniques had also been strengthened, and he hadn't encountered any real battles yet. Now, it was time to test Long Yu. We must get rid of them all before they spread the news. Long Yu thought to himself, and his eyes revealed a murderous look. It was obvious that to the group of fire god race, the Netherworld Void Dragon Blade was completely a piece of cake. Even if Long Yu came out of the Netherworld Void Dragon Blade, a human race cultivator at the level of a higher ruler wouldn't be taken seriously by the other party. Without a doubt, the other party would definitely think that with so many of them, they could easily kill Long Yu, so they wouldn't spread the news. However, this was the effect Long Yu wanted. Out of their expectations, he would kill them quickly. As long as he was fast, they wouldn't have any chance to ask for help. A fire god race member with a first stage great ruler, for higher ruler, and 7 middle ruler. The strength of this small team of fire god race could be said to be very good. Long Yu also needed this kind of opponent to hone himself. The group of fire god race members directly flew towards the Netherworld Void Dragon Blade. Various types of fire attribute divine characters covered the sky and earth. At the same time, various types of spatial divine characters erupted, directly sealing the space around the Netherworld Void Dragon Blade. If they used ordinary methods, the Netherworld Void Dragon Blade couldn't break through the spatial seal and escape. It could be said that the other party didn't intend to give the Netherworld Void Dragon Blade a chance to escape from the beginning. These Fire God race members didn't have any intention of playing around. They were completely focused on getting rid of the Netherworld Void Dragon Blade as quickly as possible. Little Void Burial begin. With a thought, Long Yu directly made the Netherworld Void Dragon Blade use its strongest technique, Void Burial. Water-type primordial power began to condense in the 12 Fire God race members, instantly erupting, forming a raging whirlpool of water-type primordial power. The appearance of the raging whirlpool immediately caused the group of Fire God race members to scatter in all directions. They could all feel the terrifying power contained in the whirlpool, so they naturally didn't dare to casually take on its attack. If they were to face it head-on, even the current Long Yu wouldn't dare to take on the attack of Void Burial. This group of Fire God race members, whose physical bodies weren't as strong as Long Yu's, naturally wouldn't dare. It was very difficult to use Void Burial like this to attack anyone. After all, the other party wouldn't foolishly wait for the water-type primordial power to condense and erupt. Although it only took a mere 2 breaths of time for Void Burial to condense and erupt, it was enough for the Fire God race members to scatter one after another. However, this was the effect that Long Yu wanted. Due to the condensing power of Void Burial, the group of Fire God race members had already scattered before the power of the technique could erupt. This was also the time for Long Yu to make his move. He aimed at one of the Fire God race's mid-level sovereigns and dashed out. Mad God descends. Mad God steps. Long Yu executed a movement technique derived from the Mad God steps that he had cultivated to perfection. His entire body was like a series of afterimages as he instantly arrived next to the mid-level Fire God race ruler. Mad God Fist Cannon. Before Long Yu left the Void Spirit Dragon Blade's inner space, he had already executed Mad God Descends and stacked it with 10 times the power of the Mad God race characters. Now, he suddenly punched out, his fist smashing into the body of the Fire God race's mid-level Fire God race sovereign. Flames scattered everywhere, and the Fire God Race's mid-level Fire God Race Sovereign was instantly blasted apart by Long Yu's fist, his body exploding into pieces. This scene was too sudden, and the other Fire God Race members didn't react at all. Immediately after, Long Yu continued to use the Berserker Divine Steps, and with a schwa, he arrived next to another Fire God Race middle-level ruler. As usual, he punched out. However, this time, the mid-level Fire God Race ruler reacted. After all, those who could enter the battlefield of the foreign races weren't easy to deal with. A layer of flame barrier directly covered the side of the mid-level Fire God Race ruler. The surrounding temperature instantly rose rapidly, almost melting the entire void into a furnace. However, this wasn't a threat to Long Yu at all. With the warring mad celestial bodies tempering, his current physical body strength was comparable to that of second and third stage sovereigns. A mere increase in temperature couldn't do anything to Long Yu. On the contrary, Long Yu continued to punch out. This time, the Mad God Fist Cannon exploded with 3 times the destructive power. With one punch, it directly shattered the fire barrier of the mid-level Fire God Race ruler. Immediately after, the Mad God Steps descended on the body of the mid-level Fire God Race ruler and completely tore it apart. In an instant, Long Yu dealt with 2 mid-level Fire God Race rulers. At this time, the other Fire God Race members also reacted and wanted to surround Long Yu. Unfortunately, because the void burial flow had been in the void at the beginning, it finally erupted now. The tyrannical destructive power instantly swept out in all directions, cutting off other Fire God Race members in the other directions. Right now, the only ones who could directly attack Long Yu were the 4 Fire God Race's higher-level sovereigns. These 4 high-level Fire God Race rulers didn't care about anything else at this moment. Instead, they immediately surrounded Long Yu and attacked him. Fire God Steps danced wildly in the void, almost forming several small suns. Mad God Steps, Mad God Fist Cannon. Long Yu's figure flickered. His opponents couldn't keep up with his speed at all. In the next moment, he appeared beside a high-level Fire God Race ruler and punched out. The power of the Mad God Steps blasted into the body of the Fire God Race ruler and directly shattered it. As the Mad God Steps continued to stack, Long Yu's aura became more and more frightening. The destructive power of the Mad God Steps also kept increasing. With one punch, the high-level Fire God Steps couldn't withstand it all. Their bodies were instantly torn apart and turned into ashes that scattered in the endless void. The flames finally bombarded Long Yu. However, at this time, Long Yu directly activated the Mad God Steps to protect himself. Mere Fire God Steps couldn't do anything to him at all. Let's end this quickly. Long Yu's eyes were full of killing intent. He swung his fists and continued to smash down. His figure was like a ghost traversing the void, carrying the aura of the Mad God Steps. He was like a god of war. In a short span of 2 or 3 breaths, he killed all 4 high-level Fire God Race rulers in this direction without encountering any effective resistance. This scene made the remaining few Fire God Race rulers feel a little scared. Even the first-stage Fire God Race ruler felt a little weak. After all, even he couldn't easily kill his 4 high-level Fire God Step subordinates. This made him understand that this human cultivator in front of him was definitely a genius of the human race. Run. He had to spread the news first and let the others besiege him. The Fire God Race great sovereign's heart trembled. He immediately thought of retreating. However, as soon as this thought appeared in his mind, he suddenly discovered that he couldn't move. Immediately after, the scene in front of him changed. He was actually pulled in front of that human genius. Boundless Grasp. Break. Long Yu's entire body was covered in 9 Nether Divine characters. He immediately used the Boundless Grasp. Chapter 1401. The body of the Fire God Race's first-rank Great Overlord that was enveloped in flames was directly grabbed by an invisible hand condensed by Long Yu's 9th Underworld Divine Script, and then it was pulled in front of Long Yu. It was just about to flee, so how could it have imagined that Long Yu would possess such a technique? Before it could react, Long Yu had successively executed the second and third section of the Boundless Grasp. The ninth underworld divine script that contained the power of corrosion instantly broke through the fire god race's body and blasted into it. The third section of the Boundless Grasp could tear through space and blast into the opponent's body, and it was similar to the martial technique that Long Yu cultivated in the past, the Void Rend Annihilation. When this move was executed out of the blue, even the first-rank Great Overlord of the Fire God race suffered a heavy injury in an instant. The main reason was that the Fire God race's first-rank Great Overlord's physical body wasn't very strong, and it wasn't even comparable to Long Yu's current physical body. So, Long Yu's Boundless Grasp tore through space and directly blasted the Fire God race's first-rank Great Overlord into a heavy injury. Immediately afterward, Long Yu didn't hesitate at all and executed his eighth divine ability, the Ball of the Nine Underworld. The first-rank Great Overlord of the Fire God race hadn't died yet, and there were still a few mid-rank Fire God race Overlords left. So, Long Yu decided to deal with them all at once. The Ball of the Nine Underworld appeared, and a sticky and coiling force instantly spread out and trapped the remaining Fire God race Overlords within it. Even the first-rank Great Overlord of the Fire God race couldn't escape the Ball of the Nine Underworld's bindings. Immediately afterward, the ninth Underworld divine script that emanated from the Ball of the Nine Underworld enveloped the Fire God race Overlords one by one. In practically an instant, a terrifying corrosive force erupted. After 2 or 3 breaths of time, these Fire God race Overlords were completely torn apart by the Ball of the Nine Underworld, and then all of them were absorbed by the Ball of the Nine Underworld. It didn't take long for not even a shadow of the Fire God race Overlord to be left behind. Not only that, even the Fire Attribute Divine Script aura left behind by the Ball of the Fire God race was completely absorbed by the Ball of the Nine Underworld. Long Yu had experimented with it before. The Sphere of the Nine Underworlds couldn't devour too much energy in a short period of time. Therefore, he had mainly devoured the first-rank Fire God race ruler. As for the other Fire God race rulers, he didn't devour them into the Sphere of the Nine Underworlds. He just used the Sphere of the Nine Underworlds to kill them. After devouring the rank 1 Fire God race ruler, Long Yu discovered that the power of the Sphere of the Nine Underworlds had indeed increased by another level. In reality, he had been devouring the Ice God clan and the small world every once in a while. After such a period of time, the power of the Ball of Nine Underworlds had increased by about 1,000th of its original level. A 1,000th increase in power was really nothing. But now, Long Yu discovered that after the Ball of Nine Underworlds swallowed the Fire God race's first-stage Great Dominator, its power suddenly increased by 1,000th. This was equivalent to the total effect of the previous 4 to 5 months of hard work. This made Long Yu's eyes light up. I don't know how much this Ball of Nine Underworld can increase in strength by devouring. If it can devour once a day, then it will double in 3 years. But I can imagine that if it devours an even stronger opponent, such as a 7th phase Great Ruler of the Fire God race, then the strength of the Ball of Nine Underworld will increase even faster. Long Yu thought to himself and put this matter aside for the time being. It was impossible to increase the strength of the Nine Underworld sphere too much in a short period of time. If he wanted to slaughter and devour foreign races without restraint, he would probably have to wait until Long Yu reached at least the 4th phase Dominator rank. At that time, Long Yu should be able to deal with ordinary 7th phase Great Rulers. He could find some high phase Great Rulers to devour, and his speed would be much faster. As for now, Long Yu had already wiped out all the Fire God clan members in the field and did not give them a chance to spread the news. No Fire God clan member knew that the line of defense in this direction had collapsed. Long Yu took advantage of this time and directly flew towards the fiery spatial barrier in front of him. Then, when he neared the barrier, he immediately used the Book of Shadows ability. In that instant, Long Yu disguised himself as the same power as the fiery spatial barrier and seeped through it. Without a doubt, Long Yu's innate ability was completely unreasonable. Even the fiery spatial barrier created by the 7th phase dominators of the Fire God race was easily pierced through by Long Yu. The Book of Shadows allowed Long Yu to disguise himself as anything. Even if it was a gust of wind, a drop of water, a wave of absolute beginning power, etc., he could even turn into nothingness. Such a method was the greatest guarantee for Long Yu's survivability. It was also his greatest advantage when compared to other cultivators. Originally, Long Yu was a little worried. After all, this fiery spatial barrier was created by a 7th phase dominator. Even if he could pass through it, he might not be able to do so without anyone noticing. He might even be detected by the fire god race. However, he quickly understood that he was worried for nothing. He passed through the fiery spatial barrier without making any noise. He didn't give the fire god race any chance to detect him. When Long Yu passed through the fiery spatial barrier, no fire god race discovered his aura. Now that he was here, he didn't dare to swagger forward, turn into nothingness. With a thought, Long Yu executed the Book of Darkness and turned into nothingness. He moved deeper into the nothingness of the void. Long Yu was about a day away from setting up the teleportation formation. If it was him before, he might not have been able to last that long. After all, turning into nothingness consumed too much power. However, things are different now. He had advanced to the martial Dao realm of a superior dominator. The power in his body was 10 times stronger than when he was a lower dominator. If he could turn into nothingness for 2 hours back then, he could now turn into nothingness for a day. As Long Yu set up the teleportation formation, the Dominator Legion, surrounded by the Fire God race, would quickly arrive. At that time, Long Yu could just leave with them. He didn't need to turn into nothingness and run away wretchedly. Long Yu continued to move forward in the void. He discovered that the area was filled with Fire God race patrol squads. Fortunately, the other party couldn't detect Long Yu in his current state. Otherwise, he would inevitably have to fight one fierce battle after another. In a situation where he was surrounded by powerful enemies, Long Yu alone wouldn't be able to hold on for too long. Therefore, he could only hide as much as possible and settle the strategic mission first. A day passed. Along the way, Long Yu had already seen several waves of elite patrol squads. These Fire God race's elite patrol squads were all existences that were at least at the 3rd phase Great Dominator rank. If any one of them was given to Long Yu, they would be able to suppress him. Even if the other party couldn't kill Long Yu, it would be extremely difficult for Long Yu to kill them. Long Yu didn't pay attention to these patrol elites. Instead, he quickly arrived at his predetermined location. He found that there were Fire God race elite patrol squads patrolling the area. Long Yu could only wait on the side. Anyway, the patrol squads couldn't stay in the same place forever. During this period of time, Long Yu's energy was somewhat depleted. He took out a primordial grade pill to recover his energy, allowing him to continue transforming into nothingness for another 4 hours. Time passed bit by bit. There were only 2 days left until the deadline for the strategic mission to be completed. If the deadline was exceeded, the encircled human race ruler legion would probably be completely wiped out by the Fire God race. Because of this strategic mission needed a powerhouse to complete. The reason why the Battlefield Legion was willing to give this mission to Long Yu was because he had a first-class honor badge. This was a symbol of honor, as well as a symbol of strength. Without a doubt, Long Yu had done it. He had come as fast as he could. The encircled Ruler Legion should still be in the process of persevering. He just didn't know how long the Fire God race elite patrol squad would be in the vicinity. Long Yu first waited on the side for a moment. He discovered that the 3 Fire God race elites of the elite patrol squad didn't move at all. It was as if they were stationed in this place. The 3 3rd phase Fire God race rulers squatted in the area in front of Long Yu, forming a triangular shape with each other. These 3 figures were covered in flames. They didn't have hands or feet. They were like clusters of flames floating in the void. The powerful aura of 3rd phase rulers was faintly discernible. If these 3 Fire God race elite patrol squad didn't leave, Long Yu wouldn't be able to set up the teleportation array in this place. However, he didn't know if the teleportation array could be set up elsewhere. If it could, things would be easy. he could just look around and set it up wherever there were no patrols. Anyway, it wouldn't take too long to set up the teleportation array. An incense stick's worth of time was enough. Long Yu only needed to use his own power to activate the Jade Slip. The Jade Slip contained enough water element primordial power to automatically construct a teleportation array. However, when the teleportation array was being set up, it absolutely couldn't be destroyed by the fire god race. Otherwise, everything would be in vain. Long Yu could find another place. When he wasn't sure if another place would work, there were only two methods left. The first method was to wait for the 3 elite fire god rays patrolling to leave this area. However, this method was not reliable enough because during the process of waiting, members of the human race's ruler army would be killed by the fire god race at every moment. Long Yu had to set up the teleportation array as soon as possible. The second method was to kill all 3 of the fire god race's elite patrolling guards. This was the most straightforward method. However, Long Yu was only at the martial Dao realm of a high-level dominator. It would be too difficult for him to kill all 3 fire god race's third-stage dominators at the same time. In addition to these 2 methods, Long Yu thought of another method. This method was a bit complicated to implement, but it was the most likely method to succeed. Chapter 1402. The method that Long Yu came up with was, of course, to lure these 3 fire god race patrol elites away. No matter where they were lured to, as long as they could last for an incense stick of time, he would have enough time to arrange the teleportation array. However, it was not an easy task to lure these 3 fire god race patrol elites. At least for the current Long Yu, it was still a little too difficult. All kinds of clones and illusions could be killed by these 3 fire god race patrol elites in an instant. It would not play the role of luring them away at all. In any case, Long Yu had to give it a try first. Anyway, within a radius of 100,000 miles, there were only these 3 fire god race patrol elites. In a short time, he was not afraid of attracting the attention of other fire god race members. It should be these 3 fire god race patrol elites. The range of their perception was 100,000 miles, so there were no other patrol elites in the vicinity. Long Yu kept thinking and quickly made a decision to let the Void Underworld Dragon Blade take on the task of luring them out. Little Sue, follow me to 50,000 miles away first. Long Yu communicated with Little Sue while maintaining the state of incarnation of nothingness, retreating to the rear. The other party's perception range was 100,000 miles, so as long as Little Sue appeared 50,000 miles away, he could attract the attention of these 3 fire god race patrol elites. Long Yu's plan was very simple. No matter how many people the 3 fire god race patrol elites chose to send after discovering the Void Underworld Dragon Blade, his plan would succeed. First of all, it was impossible for the other party to be indifferent. After all, the Void Underworld Dragon Blade contained the power of water origin, which could be used to arrange the teleportation array. Therefore, among these 3 fire god race patrol elites, 1 or 2 of them would definitely come to investigate the situation. If it was an elite fire god race patrolling the area, Long Yu would be able to kill it midway. With Long Yu's strength alone, it would be difficult to kill a 3rd-stage Sovereign Realm fire god race expert. However, he could give it a try. If there were 2 fire god race patrol elites coming to investigate, Long Yu would let Little Sue stall them, and he would go to the teleportation array to kill the remaining fire god race patrol elite. No matter what the situation was, Long Yu only needed to face 1 fire god race patrol elite. At least he could try to stall the other party and take the opportunity to arrange the teleportation array. There was not much time, and Long Yu had no time to think carefully. He retreated 50,000 miles away with the Void Underworld Dragon Blade. Then he let the Void Underworld Dragon Blade come out of the void, and he let the Void Underworld Dragon Blade come out. He believed that the 3 patrolling elites of the Fire God race should have already sensed the existence of the Nether Dragon Blade. At this time, Long Yu used balance control on himself, increasing his perception by 10 times, allowing him to detect the situation within a 300,000 kilometer radius. As Long Yu's martial arts realm improved, The strength of his spiritual sense perception also improved a lot. In the space of nothingness, the range of detection and perception was extremely wide. Then, he discovered that the three patrolling elites of the fire god race had indeed sensed the existence of the nether dragon blade, and then sent one of them over. It would probably only take about 30 minutes for it to arrive. Since there's only one, we'll kill it halfway. Long Yu's eyes flickered with killing intent. He separated from the void spirit dragon blade and transformed into nothingness to travel for a while. When he was about 10,000 miles away from the void spirit dragon blade, he laid in wait. The enemy would pass through this route without knowing that Long Yu was lying in ambush. With the element of surprise, at the very least, Long Yu would be able to gain the upper hand in the battle. As for how to fight next, it would depend on how many tricks this elite patrol had up his sleeves. Logically speaking, most patrolling alien cultivators weren't particularly powerful. They were fast and had strong senses, but they weren't that good at fighting head-on. Because of this, Long Yu wanted to find a chance to fight one of them one-on-one. The other party's flying speed was extremely fast. Furthermore, they were using spatial teleportation to get here. Long Yu used a balanced method to detect the speed, frequency, and distance of the other party's spatial teleportation. He then slightly adjusted the location of his ambush. Then, he began to wait for the other party to come over. After about half an incense stick's time, the Fire God Race's elite patrol was getting closer and closer to Long Yu. Long Yu was extremely calm. He had done things like this too many times in the past, to the point that it didn't cause any ripples in his heart. Now, the only thing he was worried about was that this third phase Great Dominator Fire God Race's elite patrol was relatively strong. In a head-on battle, he might not be its match. It had to be known that this Fire God Race's elite patrol was not necessarily an ordinary cultivator. It might also be a genius of the Fire God Race. If it was a Fire God Race genius, the kind that could fight beyond ranks, then it would be extremely difficult for Long Yu to fight. Of course, the possibility of one of them being a genius was not high, because how could a genius come out to do hard labor? When there was an abnormality 50,000 miles away, the guy sent out would generally be the most useless guy. It's about time. Let's do it. The next moment, the Fire God Race's elite patrol appeared in the center of Long Yu's ambush, as Long Yu expected. The so-called ambush, in fact, didn't prepare any traps in advance. It had to be known that traps and arrays were composed of power. Even if it was far away, it was very likely to be discovered by the other party during the process of setting it up. Therefore, Long Yu directly hid here, turned into nothingness, and waited for the other party to appear before giving the other party a fierce blow. 4. Symbol killing prison. Kill. Long Yu didn't have any probing and hesitation. He directly used his strongest means. At this critical moment of life and death, Long Yu wouldn't play any tricks with the other party. After all, his current martial Dao realm was too much lower than the other party. If he didn't establish an advantage from the beginning, it was very likely that the other party would lead him by the nose throughout the battle. The 4 symbols killing prison appeared, and the power of Azura, Yellow Springs, Death, and Hell instantly surged out. Each of them condensed into countless pitch-black chains, and they suddenly trapped the third stage Fire God Race elite within them. The terrifying corrosive power of death began to devour the life force of the Fire God Race Patrol elite. The 4 symbol-killing prison's countless death lines turned into chains that continuously corroded the other party's body. The third stage Fire God Race Patrol elite didn't expect that there would be someone lying in ambush here. Most importantly, it didn't discover the other party at all. If it was an existence stronger than it, there would be no need to hide at all. It could directly deal with it. But if it was an existence weaker than it, there was no reason that it couldn't discover it with its spiritual sense perception ability. This speculation made the Fire God Race Patrol elite realize that Long Yu's concealment method was very brilliant, and the purpose of such a human brat coming to this place was obvious. For symbols killing prison, death lines, underworld chains, all of them circled around and trapped the elite of the Fire God clan. This guy reacted quickly and burst out a violent flame power, wanting to dissolve the death lines condensed by the four symbols killing prison. If Long Yu used other ordinary means, it might be broken by the other party. Even the death lines of the four symbol killing prison seemed to be melted by the other party's flame power. Fortunately, the four symbol killing prison was worthy of being an ancient god-forbidden technique. Even if there was such a huge difference in basic power, the other party couldn't break it in a short time. Fortunately, the four symbol killing prison was worthy of being an ancient god-forbidden technique. Even if there was such a huge difference in basic power, the other party couldn't break it in a short time. The fire god race's physical body was relatively weak. Long Yu was very clear about this. Therefore, he hid his killer move behind the four symbol killing prison. Limitless grasp, break for me. Long Yu yelled and grabbed the air with one hand. This grasp didn't pull the fire god race over. Instead, it directly connected to the third section of the grasp, void-breaking killer move. The invisible hand condensed by the 9 Nether Divine runes instantly invaded the body of the Fire God Race Patrol Elite. Then, the corrosive power and the void-breaking power erupted at the same time. Even a third-stage Great Sovereign Realm Fire God Race Patrol Elite didn't have a very strong physical body. The third section of Long Yu's limitless grasp directly bombarded the core of the opponent's body. It was the easiest to deal with such a weak physical body. The limitless grasp broke through the void, and the Fire God Race Patrol Elite suffered a serious injury. Its core of power was similar to the human race's Danteon and the demon race's Beast Core. More than half of it was easily destroyed by Long Yu. Originally, the four-symbol killing prison was Long Yu's strongest killer move. It was also this move that attracted the attention of the Fire God Race Patrol Elite. After all, such a terrifying killer move was an ancient god-forbidden technique. This Fire God Race member had probably never seen such a terrifying killer move in his life. Naturally, he thought that this was Long Yu's greatest threat to him. However, in the case of a huge difference in basic power, the four-symbol killing prison couldn't kill the other party completely. It could only delay the other party for a while. If Long Yu couldn't kill the other party in a short time, then the one who would die would be Long Yu. Fortunately, the third section of the Limitless Grasp was extremely powerful. It penetrated the other party's body and bombarded the core of the other party's power. When the other party's body, which was similar to the human race's Danteon, was destroyed and heavily injured, its overall strength instantly fell to a level that was even weaker than Long Yu. Ancient Dragonbone Tower, Absolute Space Domain. At this time, Long Yu's victory was basically set. The most important thing was to prevent the other party from spreading the news. In addition, the explosive aura of Long Yu's two techniques was also controlled by the absolute space domain and time, so it didn't spread far. Dragonbone Destruction Kill. Long Yu entered the ancient Dragonbone Tower and activated the Dragonbone Destruction, which rotated rapidly and bombarded the heavily injured Fire God Race Patrol Elite. Chapter 1403. Although the other party had been severely injured, Long Yu did not let his guard down. He did not want to fail miserably. After all, the other party's martial realm was clear. Even if the core of its power was destroyed, it might still be able to unleash a wave of power, or even choose to self-destruct. No matter what, Long Yu had to ensure his own safety. The ancient Dragonbone Tower was a supreme-grade, unbounded combat weapon. With Long Yu's 9 underworld screen covering the ancient Dragonbone Tower, its defense had become extremely strong. It definitely far exceeded the toughness of Long Yu's body. Following that, the entire ancient Dragonbone Tower began to spin rapidly, turning into a whirlwind that swept towards the elite Fire God Tribe patrolling. The elite Fire God Tribe patrolling had to deal with the power of the four symbols Death Prison, while its core of power was heavily injured by Long Yu's boundless grasp. At this moment, there was no room for it to dodge. The ancient Dragonbone Tower arrived. The elite Fire God Tribe patrolling tried to self-destruct, but with its core of power heavily injured, it could not even self-destruct. In the next moment, the Dragonbone Destruction whirlwind charged forward swiftly and it blasted the body of the elite patrolling Fire God clan into pieces and completely shattered it into pieces. I've finally taken care of one. Long Yu stood in the space within the ancient Dragonbone Tower and heaved a sigh of relief. At this moment, he felt that there seemed to be a deeper level of communication between him and the ancient Dragonbone Tower. This feeling made Long Yu's heart skip a beat. Wasn't this the same feeling he had when he had reached the unparalleled realm with the Netherworld Dragonblade? Could it be that he had finally reached the unparalleled realm with the ancient Dragonbone Tower? Previously, Long Yu had always been at the Divine Union realm with the ancient Dragonbone Tower, but he had never taken the step to the unparalleled realm. But now, after killing the elite Fire God tribe patrolling together, he had finally taken the most crucial step. As the connection between Long Yu and the ancient Dragonbone Tower grew closer, Long Yu felt that a certain consciousness was being born in the ancient Dragonbone Tower. The consciousness of the ancient Dragonbone Pagoda, which had been born from its incomparable compatibility with the Juyo Dragon Emperor, had long dissipated. The ancient Dragon Skeleton Tower that had been completely repaired by Long Yu through various methods was no longer the same combat weapon as when the Juyo Dragon Emperor was in Juyo Dragon Emperor. After becoming incomparably compatible with Long Yu, the self-consciousness that was born was naturally no longer the same as before. When Long Yu sensed the self-consciousness of the Dragon Skeleton Tower being born, he could finally confirm that he was truly compatible with the Dragon Skeleton Tower to an unparalleled level. Speaking of which, the cooperation with the ancient Dragon Skeleton Tower this time was just an ordinary battle. As for why it could suddenly reach the unparalleled level, it could only be said that Long Yu had fused with it for far too long, and it had never improved again. After such a long period of preparation, he finally had some results. Unparalleled. 9 Nether Military Order. Long Yu sensed the changes between himself and the ancient Dragon Skeleton Tower, and soon realized that he could use a new move, which was called the 9 Nether Military Order. This move seemed to be able to summon a portion of the 9 Nether Army to aid Long Yu in battle. It could be said to be his summoning method. The Nether Dragon Blade of the unparalleled compatibility has given rise to the Nether Burial, an extremely powerful offensive move. I'm sure this 9 Nether Military Order won't be a simple move. Long Yu thought to himself. He was rather expectant. Since he had already taken care of an elite patrol from the Fire God tribe, it wouldn't take long for him to try out the 9 Nether Military Order. Moreover, after his compatibility with the ancient Dragon Skeleton Tower reached the unparalleled level, the strength of the absolute space domain had increased by several times, and the destructive power of the Dragon Skeleton Break had also increased by several times. If he could use it again, it would be even more powerful. Under the concealment of the absolute space domain, Long Yu directly activated the 9 Nether Military Order, and then discovered that in every level of the ancient Dragon Skeleton Tower, there were dark creatures that had mastered the power of the 9 Nether Divine Text. These dark creatures looked like all kinds of strange races, and all of them contained the power of the Revelation level 9 Nether Divine Text. They were of different cultivation realms, and their numbers were also different. For example, Long Yu counted some dark creatures that looked like hexagonal crystals had appeared in the ancient Dragon Skeleton Tower. They looked exactly like the Ice God tribe, except that their bodies were completely black, and they contained the power of the 9 Nether Divine Text. There were also dark creatures that looked like the Fire God tribe, the Desolate God tribe, the Wood God tribe, and so on. So the 9 Nether Military Order is to turn all the foreign races trapped in the ancient Dragon Skeleton Tower into dark creatures for my use. Long Yu quickly understood the effect of this move, and this made him very excited. This was because the dark creatures summoned by the 9 Nether Military Order were mostly at the same martial realm as Long Yu. They were high-level dominators, as well as some mid-level dominators and low-level dominators. Even a few first-stage sovereigns had been summoned. These dark creatures were originally imprisoned in the ancient Dragon Skeleton Tower, but they had all died inside. The 9 Nether Military Order could reform the dead foreign races with the 9 Nether Divine Text. With Long Yu's current strength, he could only summon a few second-stage Dominator foreign races at most. 6 second-stage Dominator foreign races. The Ice God Tribe, Fire God Tribe, Earth God Tribe, Wind God Tribe, Wood God Tribe, and Desolate God Tribe. Exactly 6 foreign races, and each race has summoned one. Long Yu was very excited. With these 6 second-stage Dominator Dark creatures, the remaining 2 patrolling elites from the Fire God Tribe would not be a problem at all. The appearance of the 9 Nether Military Order was a blessing to Long Yu. It instantly resolved his current predicament. If he had learned this move before, he wouldn't have needed to use the strategy of luring the tiger away from the mountain. Long Yu could definitely get rid of the 3 patrolling elites from the Fire God Tribe with the 9 Nether Military Order. Master, you must know that the dark creatures summoned by the 9 Nether Military Order cannot be reborn once they die. I must remind you that the dark creatures you have summoned are all the dark creatures in the tower. If you want to summon more in the future, you'll have to seal some foreign races into the tower. The self-consciousness that had just been born in the ancient dragon skeleton tower gradually awakened. This self-consciousness was quite considerate and directly told these things to Long Yu. However, Long Yu could hear a somewhat mechanical tone from the other party's consciousness. It seemed that every soldier's self-consciousness and personality were different. The Void Spirit Dragonblade's consciousness was quite amiable, but the self-consciousness of the ancient dragon skeleton tower was a bit old-fashioned. However, this didn't matter. In any case, the self-consciousness of both parties had completely fused with Long Yu. It could be said that they were both a part of Long Yu. Long Yu didn't need to pay attention to things like the personality of the self-consciousness. I understand. Long Yu nodded. Only now did he understand that all the foreign races in the ancient dragon skeleton tower were here, which made him a little disappointed. However, just the 6 darkness creatures that had been transformed from second phase great sovereigns were enough to solve the problem he was currently facing. 9 Nether Military Order seal. With a thought, Long Yu activated the 9 Nether Military Order towards the Fire God Race Patrol Elite that had been destroyed by the Dragon Skeleton Tower. A beam of dark light suddenly arrived and directly sealed the body, mind, and soul of the 3rd stage Dominator Fire God Race Patrol Elite into the ancient Dragon Skeleton Tower. This way, he could use the 9 Nether Military Order in the future to transform this Fire God Race Patrol Elite into a dark creature for his own use. This move was very easy to use, and Long Yu heaved a sigh of relief. Immediately after, he didn't waste any time and called Little Sue back. He then cleared all traces of battle in the area, turned into nothingness again, and rushed towards the place where the formation was set up. It was time to kill the remaining 2 Fire God Race Elite Patrol Beasts. Long Yu kept turning back. The 2 Fire God Race Patrol Elites still didn't realize that the rookie they had sent had already been killed by Long Yu, and that someone was still approaching them. Soon, Long Yu returned to the 10-mile range of the 2 Fire God Race Patrol Elites. Under the effect of turning into nothingness, the other party couldn't detect his existence at all. Without any hesitation, Long Yu suddenly burst out with the ancient Dragon Skeleton Tower. The absolute space domain instantly blocked the space in the area, making it impossible for the other party to send out a distress signal. Immediately after, the 6 second stage Dominator Realm alien dark creatures were released by Long Yu from the ancient Dragon Skeleton Tower, and each of them rushed towards the 2 Fire God Race Patrol Elites. The Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine characters continuously exploded and bombarded the 2 Fire God Race Patrol Elites. In an instant, the 2 Fire God Race Patrol Elites were covered in a chaotic and violent attack. At the same time, Long Yu also ordered the other high-level Dominators, mid-level Dominators, and other alien dark creatures with lower martial realms to surround the 2 Fire God Race Patrol Elites to prevent them from escaping. After all, the 2 Fire God Race members who stayed behind might not be rookies like the previous one. They might have some special means, so he had to be on guard. Otherwise, if there was any carelessness, it would cause Long Yu's operation to be in vain. The alien dark creatures appeared out of thin air, and the 2 Fire God Race Patrol Elites immediately raised their spirits, and Fire Attribute Divine characters burst out. One of the Fire God Race Patrol elites turned into a huge fireball and instantly expanded, enveloping the two desolate God Race and wood God Race dark creatures. Unending rank, martial skill. Long Yu could immediately see that the Fire God Race Patrol elite had used an unending rank martial skill, and this time, it directly erupted with 8 times the power. There was already a gap in martial realms, and with the unending rank martial skill erupting with 8 times the power, the two desolate God Race and wood God Race dark creatures couldn't withstand it. Although these two dark creatures had the cultivation of second-stage dominators, they didn't know the martial skills, divine formations, and other means they had when they were alive. Therefore, their combat strength was probably inferior to ordinary second-stage dominators. However, while the Fire God Race Patrol elites were dealing with the dark creatures, Long Yu finally made his move. Chapter 1404. Long Yu did not expect to let the 6th second-stage Sovereign Realm dark creatures deal with the Fire God Race Patrol elites. Instead, he was going to wait for the other party's attention to take action personally. 9 Underworld Sphere. Long Yu immediately activated his 8th divine ability. The pitch-black 9 Underworld Divine characters condensed into a sphere and appeared in the void. It emitted a sticky, entangling force and restrained one of the Fire God Race Patrol elites. This Fire God Race Patrol elite had just used an unbounded martial skill 8 times the power to kill the two dark creatures summoned by Long Yu. The Fire God Race Patrol elite was completely unprepared for Long Yu's appearance. As soon as the sphere of 9 underworlds appeared, it controlled it. Then, Long Yu raised his hand and used the Boundless Grasp. An invisible hand condensed from the heaven-level 9 underworlds divine runes pierced through the air and struck the body of the Fire God Race's elite patrol soldier. Its most critical power core was directly smashed into pieces by Long Yu. 9 Underworld Military Order, Absorb. Long Yu activated the ancient Dragon Bone Pagoda and directly absorbed and sealed the Fire God Race Patrol elite so that he could summon the dark creatures it had transformed into in the future. Then, he did not stop and ordered all the remaining dark creatures to surround the other Fire God Race Patrol elite. After all, there were too many of them, and the remaining Fire God Race Patrol elite would not be able to hold out for long. Even though it managed to kill quite a few dark creatures, they were only at the first phase Great Dominator rank, Middle Dominator rank, or High Dominator rank. The 4 second phase Great Dominator rank dark creatures slowly closed in, completely surrounding the Fire God Race's elite patrol. Long Yu immediately turned around and used the Boundless Grasp again. The terrifying, penetrating power shattered the Fire God Race Patrol elite's power core. At this point, the 3 Fire God Race Patrol elites were almost all killed by Long Yu. If not for the fact that he had finally reached an unparalleled level with the ancient Dragon Bone Pagoda and derived the 9 Underworld Military Order, Long Yu would not have been able to kill this group of Fire God Race members so quickly. But now was not the time for him to be emotional. Patrol, be on guard. Long Yu had already absorbed and sealed the souls and consciousnesses of the 3 elite Fire God Patrollers into the ancient Dragon Bone Tower so that they could be transformed into dark creatures in the future. After that, he had the other dark creatures spread out and stand guard while he took out the Jade Slip with the strategic mission at the location where he had set up the spell formation. Long Yu directly activated the Jade Slip, racing against time to complete the task. From the Jade Slip, bursts of water element power continuously emerged, naturally forming the prototype of a formation in front of Long Yu. This array was, of course, a teleportation array. However, it was only a one-way receiving array. In other words, this array could only allow people to teleport over, but not teleport away from this array. Originally, this teleportation formation was used to receive the besieged Ruler Legion. Hence, there was no need for the teleportation formation to function as long as it could receive the Ruler Legion. Setting up the formation would take about the time it took for an incense stick to burn. During this time, Long Yu had to guard this place and prevent any Fire God clan members from breaking through and destroying the teleportation formation that was being set up. The time it took for an incense stick to burn was not long, but it was not short either. In particular, Long Yu had killed 3 elite Fire God clan patrollers. If there were other elite Fire God clan patrollers in the surroundings, they might have some special means to detect them and rush over to harass them. No matter what, Long Yu had to guard this place to the death. There are Fire God clan members rushing over so quickly. Long Yu had only started setting up the teleportation formation for a while when he received news from the dark creatures under his command. There were already 2 elite Fire God clan patrollers flying over from not far away. Moreover, they seemed to have discovered the abnormality here, so they suddenly accelerated. Little Sue, guard the teleportation formation. I'll go over and stop them. Without any hesitation, Long Yu let the Nether Void Dragon Blade stay behind to guard the teleportation formation. Then, he let the Ancient Dragon Bone Pagoda activate the absolute space domain and shrouded the area around the teleportation formation that was being set up. This way, nothing could be directly teleported to the vicinity of the teleportation formation. At the very least, it would be delayed by the absolute space domain for a long time. With this buffer time, the possibility of Long Yu successfully setting up the teleportation formation would greatly increase. On the periphery, there were dark creatures patrolling vigilantly, while the inner circle was guarded by the Nether Void Dragon Blade and the Ancient Dragon Bone Pagoda. It would definitely not be a problem to hold out for the time it took for an incense stick to burn. Now, what Long Yu was considering was to delay the arrival of the elite Fire God clan patrollers as much as possible. Or rather, to kill the elite Fire God clan patrollers as much as possible. The elite Fire God clan patrollers that Long Yu had discovered were about 10,000 miles away. Long Yu had enough time to set up an ambush along the way. However, the effect of the ambush this time would probably not be so good. First of all, the other party had 2 elite Fire God clan patrollers on the way together. Second, the other party had already discovered the situation here and was vigilant. It would not be so easy to reveal flaws because of haste. For second stage, great Dominator Dark creatures can follow me over and restrain one of them. Long Yu made a battle plan in his heart and immediately set off. The 4 dark creatures transformed from different races quickly advanced in the direction of the 2 elite Fire God clan patrollers. Meanwhile, Long Yu turned into nothingness and hid. Using the same trick again, Long Yu did not know if he could achieve the same effect as last time. But no matter what, he had to give it a try. Taking advantage of the fact that there were only 2 elite Fire God clan patrollers, he would kill them if he could. No matter what, he could delay the other party's deployment time. Soon, the 4 dark creatures clashed with the 2 elite Fire God clan patrollers. Both sides clashed. As the other party was already prepared, they moved extremely quickly this time. Almost in just a face-to-face confrontation, the dark creatures transformed from the Fire God clan and the Ice God clan were surrounded by the power of the other party's Flame Divine text, and then completely burned to ashes. Before Long Yu could react, the other party's powerful means had already killed the 2 dark creatures. But immediately afterward, Long Yu made a brazen move. Without a trace of hesitation, he instantly summoned 5 9 Nether Hunters, and at the same time, condensed 100 desolate ancient afterimages. Each desolate ancient afterimage only had the power of 1 attack, but even so, it was enough to attract the other party's attention. As soon as the 5 9 Nether Hunters appeared, they performed the Heartblade third slash toward the 2 elite Fire God clan patrollers. Although the rich power of illusion could not completely drag the other party into the illusion, it still made the other party's mind fall into a trance for a moment. It was also at this time that the 100 desolate ancient afterimages performed the 9 Nether Dragon Breath. 100 pitch-black dragon breath flames instantly enveloped the 2 elite Fire God clan patrollers. The means displayed by the desolate ancient afterimages were not as good as Long Yu himself, especially now that there was a huge cultivation gap between him and the elite Fire God clan patrollers. Therefore, it was impossible for the 109 Nether Dragon Breaths of the desolate ancient afterimages to kill the other party. They could not even seriously injure the other party. What Long Yu needed was to let them attract the attention of the elite Fire God Clan patrollers, and then he would carry out a one-hit kill. For Symbol's killing prison, Boundless Grasp. Seeing that the other party's attention was attracted and all their thoughts were on defending against the 9 Nether Dragon Breaths, Long Yu did not hesitate to make a move. First, it was the 4 Symbols killing prison, then the Boundless Grasp. Both skills were used at the same time, attacking from the inside and outside. Almost in just a moment, the elite Fire God Clan patrollers that was attacked by Long Yu directly suffered a serious injury. However, before Long Yu could react, the elite Fire God Clan patrollers were covered in the Flames of Rebirth. When the Flames of Rebirth were ignited, the injuries suffered by the entire elite Fire God Clan patrollers suddenly recovered. Obviously, this was not a martial arts secret technique that the other party cultivated, but a kind of innate magical power or a divine formation. As for the specific method, Long Yu did not know, but the key problem was that the other party had completely recovered. This made Long Yu's heart tremble. He knew that it was impossible to deal with the opponent like before. 9 Nether Ball. Hiding behind the desolate ancient afterimages and the 9 Nether Hunters, Long Yu directly summoned the 8th magical power. The pitch-black 9 Nether Ball appeared, and the sticky, entangling power of the 9 Nether Divine characters rushed towards the 2 elite Fire God Clan patrollers. The entangling power of the 9 Nether Ball was definitely not weak. After all, it was condensed after the 9 Nether Prison Tablet swallowed the entire collapsed 9 Netherworld. At this moment, the appearance of a 9 Nether Ball almost weakened the movement of the 2 elite Fire God Clan patrollers by half. In other words, under the influence of the 9 Nether Ball, the speed of the 2 elite Fire God Clan patrollers was reduced by half no matter what method they used. Berserker Divine Walk. Berserker Fist Cannon. Long Yu's whole body was covered with the Berserker Celestial Barrier, and then he flashed behind one of the elite Fire God Clan patrollers with extreme speed, and then he punched out heavily. This was the first time he had a head-on confrontation with a third-stage Great Dominator Realm Fire God Clan. He did not want to take the risk, but now he really had no other choice. The 4 Symbols Death Prison and the Boundless Grasp could not kill this thing. If he used it again, the other party would be vigilant, and the effect would be even lower. Therefore, if Long Yu wanted to kill these 2 guys, he could only fight head-on. In terms of martial arts realm, it was almost impossible for Long Yu to kill the other party, but Long Yu was very clear about the means he had now. In the previous battles, he had never reached the limit. Now, he wanted to see if he could do it using that kind of fighting method that was close to self-mutilation to kill an opponent that far surpassed him. Berserker Divine Runes enveloped Long Yu's whole body, making him look like a berserker god descending to the world. When his fist was about to land on the body of the elite Fire God Clan patrollers, the power of the Berserker Divine Runes on his whole body had already increased by 7 times. On the body of the Fire God Clan, a dry heat almost sprayed onto Long Yu's face, and the power of the Berserker Divine Runes instantly erupted, enveloping Long Yu's whole body. Chapter 1405. Fire Attribute Divine Runes erupted from the body of the Fire God Race's patrol elite, enveloping Long Yu. The ultra-high temperature directly burned the surface of his body. Long Yu's physical body was not strong enough to withstand the attack of a third-phase Dominator, but he would not be killed just because of it. Berserker Fist Cannon. Long Yu's entire body was scorched black, but he didn't have any intention of retreating. His fist continued to punch forward, and the power of Berserker's divine runes rumbled forth, smashing into the body of the Fire God Race's elite patrol guard. Long Yu began to fight the Fire God Race one-on-one. The remaining 2 second-phase Dominator Dark creatures, along with 7 or 8 first-phase Dominator Dark creatures, worked together to stall the other Fire God Race elite, buying time for Long Yu. In a short period of time, Long Yu directly punched the Fire God Race elite 3 times, superimposed with 3 layers of Berserker Fist Cannon. In addition to the previous Berserker Fist Cannon, The power of Long Yu's Berserker Divine Runes had increased by 12 times. The 3 Berserker Fist Cannons just now were also more powerful than the last, but they were unable to cause any damage to the Fire God Race Elite. At the same time, the Fire God Race Patrol Elite saw that Long Yu could still move and immediately continued to attack. It should be an innate divine ability. Endless fire attribute divine runes descended from the sky, enveloping Long Yu's entire body. Although Long Yu's physical body was not weak, he had just been seriously injured. Now that he was being bombarded by such an innate divine ability, he naturally could not withstand it. However, he was not in a hurry. He used the Book of Shadows and directly merged with the opponent's fire attribute power. Following that, Long Yu turned into nothingness and came out. He went to the void at the side and hid his aura while activating the demon Dust Heart to heal his injuries. Although Long Yu was seriously injured, the injuries he had just received were only superficial wounds. Relying on the power of the demon Dust Heart, he completely recovered in a few breaths. Immediately afterward, Long Yu jumped out of the void and continued to chase after the Fire God Race Patrol Elite. Berserker Divine Runes enveloped his fist as he continued to fire Berserker Fist Cannons. As a result, Long Yu's Berserker Fist Cannons continued to superimpose. Coupled with the effect of Berserker Fist Cannons, his attacks became stronger and stronger. At this moment, this punch made the Fire God Race Patrol Elite feel a trace of threat. The Fire God Race's Patrol Elite originally thought that the innate divine ability would be enough to kill Long Yu, but he didn't expect that after a few breaths, Long Yu would jump out of nowhere. The Elite Patrol Elite originally wanted to take the opportunity to break through and destroy the teleportation array that was being set up, but it did not expect Long Yu to jump out and punch it. Of the Berserker Divine Runes. Berserker runes were: the Berserker Divine Rune, Advance Courageously. In order to unleash the full might of the Berserker Divine Rune, one would need Long Yu's unyielding momentum. The 2 punches from the left and right were still unable to hurt the opponent. However, Long Yu's Berserker Fist Cannons were superimposed to a higher level. That Fire God Race Patrol Elite wasn't prepared for Long Yu's reappearance. Just as he reacted, he was punched twice. In the next moment, he was unable to restrain his anger. Flames erupted from his body, forming 2 blazing light waves that sandwiched Long Yu from the left and right. The destructive power of the 2 blazing light waves was extremely terrifying. Long Yu had just raised his fist and wanted to continue punching the opponent. However, one of his legs and half of his waist were completely vaporized by the 2 blazing light waves. However, the 2 punches still smashed down, and the Berserker Fist Cannons continued to superimpose. Book of Shadows. Long Yu himself felt that he was extremely shameless. Although one of his legs and half of his waist were vaporized by the opponent's blazing light waves, he immediately used the Book of Shadows to hide in the nothingness space. He turned into nothingness, and the opponent could not do anything to him. In this way, the dragon-resisting Devil Dust Heart was once again activated, and it quickly healed his damaged body. The Fire God Race Patrol Elite was extremely puzzled when he saw this. He couldn't figure out where Long Yu had gone. His spiritual sense perception was definitely not weak, but he could not detect the location of Long Yu, who had turned into nothingness. Therefore, if he didn't want to be sneak attacked by Long Yu again, he could only use the power of deduction. Unfortunately, it would still take some time for the power of deduction to deduce the location of Long Yu, and this period of time was enough for Long Yu to fully recover from his injuries. As a result, while the Fire God Race's elite patrol was still trying to deduce Long Yu's position, Long Yu had already completely recovered. Long Yu continued his berserk divine steps and instantly flew in front of him, smashing his fist down. With 10 layers of Berserker Fist Cannons superimposed, Long Yu's current punch posed enough of a threat to the Fire God Race Patrol Elite. With the first punch, the other party was unable to react in time. Although he had activated a layer of flame defense barrier, this layer of barrier was smashed by Long Yu's punch. Immediately after, The second punch directly smashed the elite patrol of the Fire God race. Long Yu used various means, using this almost rogue method to gradually superimpose his Berserker fist cannons. With these two punches, the Berserker fist cannons have been superimposed to the 12th level. Coupled with the effect of descent of the Berserker, it meant that the power of his Berserker fist cannons was 22 times stronger than the power of his usual Berserker fist cannons. After all, there was the 9 Serenity's Ball restraining the 2 Fire God race patrol elites, slowing down their movements and various means by half. Otherwise, Long Yu would have been defeated at this moment. On the other side, the Fire God race patrol elite that was besieged by the dark creatures was almost on the verge of going berserk. 4 great Dominator-level dark creatures had died and were completely burned to ashes, leaving nothing behind. Let's work harder. As long as I can reach the 33 times power of Berserker Divine Rune, I should be able to kill this Fire God race. Long Yu thought to himself. He didn't stop his actions at all. Now that this Fire God race patrol elite was sufficiently vigilant against him, Long Yu changed his target. At this moment, Long Yu directly ordered the darkness creatures to deal with the Fire God race being that he was originally fighting. As for himself, he executed the Berserker's divine steps and directly flew to the back of the Fire God race being that was originally surrounded by the darkness creatures. Berserker fist cannons. As usual, Long Yu blasted out 2 punches from the left and right. The violent power of Berserker Divine Rune blasted out and directly blasted the Fire God race away. Berserker fist cannons, 14th level. That person from the Fire God race was instantly enraged. Countless flame shackles condensed in the air and shot towards Long Yu. They formed a cage of flames, trapping Long Yu within it. Furthermore, they were constantly shrinking, binding Long Yu's entire body tightly. The flame shackles were extremely hot and had a control effect, making it almost impossible for Long Yu to move. And this was undoubtedly an excellent opportunity for Long Yu. World Cleansing Soul Mirror. Seeing that the opponent was using a control method, Long Yu did not hesitate to activate the peak derivative of the World Cleansing Body, World Cleansing Soul Mirror. The surface of his body directly emitted a layer of World Cleansing light, condensing into a World Cleansing Soul Mirror, instantly returning all the effects of the flame shackles back 10 times. The thicker and hotter flame shackles instantly rebounded, trapping the Fire God race patrol elite in it. Kill. For Long Yu, this opportunity was too good. He moved to the side of the opponent and continuously punched out, continuously stacking Berserker Divine Walk. Every time he punched out, the body of the Fire God race that was trapped by the flame shackles would be blasted hundreds of feet away. However, Long Yu could use Berserker Divine Walk to catch up and continue to punch out the next time. The opponent was trapped by its own flame shackles and needed time to break through the shackles. Although it did not take much time, Long Yu took advantage of this time and directly blasted out 6 punches. Berserker Divine Walk, level 20. It's not enough. I have to crush it. Long Yu's whole body carried a boundless Berserker aura. Although his martial arts realm was only at the high-level sovereign level, in terms of aura, he did not lose to the 2 Fire God race patrol elites in front of him. Immediately afterward, he raised his hand and activated the Boundless Seal. An invisible and strange force appeared and formed a Boundless Seal, directly sealing the elite patrol of the Fire God race. If the opponent wanted to break through the Boundless Seal, it would take at least a period of time. Long Yu did not hesitate and directly blasted at the Boundless Seal. Berserker Divine Walk continued to stack. In addition, during this period of time, the effect of Berserker Divine Walk had increased over time. Although it was slow, it had already stacked up to 14 levels. Coupled with the bonus of Berserker Divine Walk, a total of 35 levels of Berserker Divine Runes had increased in power. Long Yu still felt that it was not enough. Although this bit of power was enough to kill the opponent, it was not enough to crush it. It would take a lot of time. He blasted 5 punches at the Boundless Seal in a row. Then the opponent broke the Boundless Seal from the inside and finally escaped. Long Yu did not hold back and directly blasted a punch at the opponent. The Berserker Divine runes almost tore the space apart. This time, Long Yu did not bring the Nether Void Dragon Blade or the ancient Dragonbone Pagoda. He purely relied on his physical strength and the Berserker Divine walk to fight the opponent to the death. At this moment, the Fire God Race Patrol Elite had already sensed that this human high-level sovereign in front of them already had the power to kill them. It became extremely cautious. However, the more cautious it was, the more restrictions it would face, and the less likely it would be to kill Long Yu. This was because as time passed, Long Yu's Berserker Divine runes would become stronger and stronger. One punch, two punches, the Berserker Divine runes condensed into fist winds, almost shattering the physical body of the Fire God race. The flame barrier continued to condense and barely defended against Long Yu's attack. It was also at this moment that Long Yu felt a sudden heat wave behind him. It turned out to be another Fire God Race Patrol Elite. It had already controlled all the dark creatures and then took the time to attack Long Yu. After all, those dark creatures were still very strong. It was not so easy to get rid of them, but it was easy to trap them. Seemingly seeing that Long Yu was becoming stronger and stronger and posing a great threat to them, the two Fire God Race Patrol Elites finally began to attack Long Yu from the front and back. However, it was too late for them to think of joining forces. Chapter 1406. Ancient Desolate Afterimages. Long Yu once again condensed 100 ancient desolate afterimages, and the energy in his body was almost exhausted. But now, each of these ancient desolate afterimages had nearly 50 layers of Berserker Divine runes, and their auras were completely different from the original 100 ancient desolate afterimages. These 100 ancient desolate afterimages blasted a Berserker fist cannon at the two Fire God Race Patrol Elites almost at the same time. The Berserker Divine runes carried endless power and rumbled towards them. Faced with this situation, the two Fire God Race Patrol Elites released fiery Divine runes all over their bodies, and the power of endless fire Divine runes swept out, engulfing most of the ancient desolate afterimages in the field and burning them to ashes. However, there were still 20 to 30 ancient desolate afterimages left, and with the aura of endless Berserker Divine runes, they directly bombarded their opponents' bodies. At this time, Long Yu was pleasantly surprised to discover that when the ancient desolate afterimages used Berserker fist cannon to attack their opponents, they could also superimpose a certain layer of Berserker heaven power on themselves. Of course, not every ancient desolate afterimage could superimpose a layer. Now, a total of more than 20 ancient desolate afterimages blasted out, allowing Long Yu to superimpose 5 layers of Berserker heaven power. Almost every 5 ancient desolate afterimages that hit an opponent could superimpose 1 layer of Berserker heaven power on Long Yu. This efficiency was still relatively high, but the problem was that Long Yu couldn't often use this method to superimpose Berserker heaven power, because the energy consumed to condense the ancient desolate afterimages was too high. In particular, the ancient desolate afterimages that Long Yu had condensed a high Berserker heaven power had consumed most of the energy in his body in an instant. If he wanted to continue fighting, he could only take an Archean-level medicinal pill. Long Yu's Berserker heaven power superimposed another 5 layers, and the power of the Berserker Divine runes he displayed had suddenly increased to more than 55 times. This made him look like a true Berserker god descending to the world. Berserker Divine runes suddenly moved, instantly appearing behind one of the Fire God Race Patrol Elites, and then punched out. The terrifying force sent the elite patrol of the Fire God Race flying with a single punch. The flames on his entire body scattered, and he was seriously injured. The patrol elite of the Fire God clan was still dealing with Long Yu's desolate afterimage, but he was sent flying by Long Yu's punch, followed by the Boundless Grasp, and the third part of the grasp broke through the air and bombarded him. The invisible and strange power of the Boundless Grasp directly invaded the body of the Fire God Race's elite patrol, destroying the core of its power once again. Previously, Long Yu had destroyed his body once at the beginning, but he had recovered with some secret martial arts technique. This time, Long Yu didn't plan on giving it any more chances. After using the boundless grasp, he once again used Berserk Divine Walk and blasted out 3 consecutive Berserk fists. Bang, bang, bang. After 3 Berserk fists, the entire body of the elite patrol of the Fire God race scattered into scattered flames. The core of its power collapsed, and its vitality rapidly declined. Soon, there was no vitality left. Now, Long Yu was sure that he had finally killed this guy. Without any hesitation, he turned around and urged Berserk Divine Walk, quickly chasing after the remaining elite patrol of the Fire God race. The elite patrol of the Fire God race now saw that the situation was not good and wanted to escape, but how could it be faster than Long Yu? In the state of Berserk Divine Walk, Long Yu's flying speed soared by 100 times. Sometimes, with the explosive effect of the unbounded level martial skill, his flying speed could soar by 200 or 300 times, or even 400 or 500 times. It could be said that he was as fast as lightning, even faster than some spatial teleportation. In 2 or 3 breaths, Long Yu caught up with the elite patrol of the Fire God race. Just as he was about to kill it, he found that not far away, there were several other elite patrol of the Fire God race, quickly rushing over. There are more, but the teleportation array is almost ready. After killing this one, it's time to retreat. Long Yu's heart trembled. He knew that he could not continue fighting like this. Otherwise, when the elite patrol of the Fire God race surrounded him, it would definitely be a disaster. Of course, there was no way that Long Yu would let this elite patrol of the Fire God race go. Now, the aura of the Berserk Divine runes around Long Yu's body was extremely high. The power of the Berserk Divine runes had increased by nearly 60 times. His whole body was like a black stream of light, streaking through the void and catching up with the elite patrol of the Fire God race. Immediately after, he raised his fist and smashed it. The terrifying power of the Berserk Divine runes fell on the head of the elite patrol of the Fire God race. It never thought that today it would be chased by a mere human with a higher sovereign realm cultivation and even be killed by him. The elite patrol of the Fire God race reacted immediately, but could not dodge or block the attack. The 60 times increase in the power of the Berserk Divine runes had already made the power of Long Yu's punch equivalent to the level of a 4th stage sovereign. In addition, the Berserk Celestial Body was a high-grade, unending level martial skill, and it was possible to erupt with a stronger destructive power. When Long Yu caught up with the elite patrol of the Fire God race, it had 3 times the explosive power. In summary, it was directly equivalent to the punch of a 5th stage sovereign. The elite patrol of the Fire God race could not withstand it at all, so it was ready to condense its own power and self-destruct. However, before it had time to self-destruct, Long Yu's attack had already arrived, directly blasting its whole body into pieces. The flames on its body turned into scattered flames, scattered in all directions, and drifted away in the void. 2/3 stage Sovereign Realm Fire God race elite patrol of the Fire God race were killed by Long Yu just like that. However, the combat power of these patrol elites was relatively low at the same level, so Long Yu did not feel that he was very powerful after killing these guys. Of course, to a certain extent, the current him could even deal with demigods as long as he infinitely stacked the Berserk Celestial Body. But the problem was that with Long Yu's fragile body, he could not even withstand one move from a demigod. Only by staying alive could he possibly defeat his opponent. Long Yu had just been beaten half to death by the elite patrol of the Fire God race. If not for the Devil Dust Heart, he would have been a disabled person by now. Therefore, Long Yu's current limit was probably around the level of a 3rd stage sovereign. If he were to deal with an opponent of a higher level, or some expert geniuses who could fight above their level, Long Yu still would not be able to face them head-on. Let's go. Seeing that the other 3 patrol elites of the Fire God race were flying over quickly and were about to arrive in front of Long Yu in the next moment, Long Yu did not hesitate at all and turned around to return in the direction where the formation was being set up. Through the thoughts of the Void Spirit Dragon Blade and the ancient Dragon Bone Tower, Long you could know that the location where the formation was being set up was already surrounded by more than 10 Fire God Race patrol elites. These patrol elites were breaking the absolute space domain set up by the ancient Dragonbone Tower as quickly as possible, so that they could enter it and destroy the teleportation formation that was being set up. Unfortunately, the sturdiness of the absolute space domain was far beyond their imagination, and it was definitely not something that could be destroyed in a short period of time. When Long Yu returned, the absolute space domain was still as sturdy as a mountain, and it would take at least half an hour for it to be destroyed by the other party. His compatibility with the ancient Dragonbone Tower had reached an unparalleled level, which was very useful to Long Yu. It could be said to have solved his urgent problem. It's almost done. When Long Yu sensed that the teleportation formation in the center of the absolute space domain was gradually taking shape, his heart finally calmed down. As long as the teleportation formation was completed, the ruler army would arrive, and Long Yu's strategic mission would be completed. The difficulty of this mission was really not small, and if it was someone else, they might not be able to complete it. Only those with a higher martial realm, such as a 5th stage or 6th stage ruler expert, would be able to complete this mission with relative ease. However, even a peak 7th stage ruler expert might encounter great trouble at the 1st stage of the flame spatial barrier and not be able to pass. Because of the flaming spatial barrier, the patrols of the Fire God race inside the barrier were not very strict. This allowed Long Yu to take advantage of this opportunity and set up this transmission array. If it was someone else who came, they would not be able to kill the 3 patrol elites if they were too weak, and they might not be able to break through the outer layer of the flame spatial barrier without a sound if they were too strong. Therefore, this strategic mission was very difficult, and usually only people with special abilities would be able to complete it. From this point of view, the fact that Long Yu was able to complete this strategic mission meant that he could be considered as one of the people with special abilities. Long Yu turned into nothingness and quietly entered the absolute space domain. Looking at the anxious expressions on the faces of the dozen elite Fire God tribesmen patrolling the perimeter, he felt like laughing. As expected of the ancient Dragon Skeleton Tower, a supreme tier endless grade battle weapon. After fusing with Peerless, the Void Domain was much stronger than before, and because it was an endless grade battle weapon, it even had the ability to repair itself. The offensive and defensive methods of an unparalleled rank battle weapon could burst out with even greater power, and methods like the Absolute Space Domain could continuously repair itself, making it even more difficult for opponents to destroy it. Finally, the time it took for an incense stick to burn had passed since the construction of the teleportation formation began. It had taken Long Yu nearly the time it took for an incense stick to burn to finish off the 2 patrol elites. Not long after he returned to the absolute space domain, the teleportation formation was finally completed. When the magic array was completed, a wave of water-type absolute beginning power spread out in all directions, causing Long Yu, who was immersed in it, to feel refreshed. At this moment, he seemed to have gained some understanding of water-type absolute beginning power. When I have the time, I'll have to rely on Little Void to comprehend water-type Genesis power, Long Yu thought to himself. Then he saw the Fire God Race Patrol elites fleeing in all directions. At the same time, figures flickered out of the completed teleportation formation. Chapter 1407. When Long Yu finished constructing the teleportation formation, the human race ruler army that was trapped not far away could immediately teleport over. The 2 places were separated by about a day's distance, and the Fire God Race army was still a day's distance away from surrounding the ruler army. As long as the ruler army teleported over, the human race army would definitely not be able to catch up. The only problem was that the place where they were trapped was definitely constructed with a teleportation formation. Only then could the entire ruler army teleport over to where Long Yu was. In the end, there would definitely be people staying there to either protect the teleportation formation or destroy it to prevent the Fire God Race army from chasing after them. Therefore, even if they were escaping, there would definitely be sacrifices. Long Yu was not far away from the teleportation formation. He watched as human experts came out from the teleportation formation. The first to appear was definitely the vanguard. Those with relatively high martial realms were all third, fourth, and even fifth rank rulers. About a dozen experts of this level led more than 100 higher-level sovereigns out of the teleportation array. Every one of them had wounds on them. It was obvious at a glance how intense the battle was over there. When this group of people came out of the teleportation formation and saw that only Long Yu was there, they could not help but be stunned. Long Yu was not far away from the teleportation formation. The void nether dragon blade was in his hand, and the ancient dragon bone tower was beneath his feet. He was a single higher rank ruler. He was surrounded by the absolute space domain and over a dozen elite fire god race patrolling in all directions. Such a scene was completely out of the expectations of the first batch of humans that had escaped. Just one person? A higher rank ruler? He was able to barge so deep into the teleportation formation that allowed them to escape? This was too shocking. This little brother, are you the only one here? The leader was a fifth-rank ruler expert. He was tall and sturdy, but his golden armor was already in tatters. Some parts of it were even charred. It was unknown how many attacks he had endured from the fire god race. He asked Long Yu directly. His voice was solemn and full of vicissitudes. That's right. How many do you have left? Long Yu nodded his head and replied with a question. Our sovereign core originally had 10,000 brothers, but now we have 6,500 brothers left. When he spoke up to this point, the burly man's face sank. Obviously, it was difficult for him to accept the loss of over 3,500 people in an instant. After all, these people were brothers who had gone through thick and thin with them. This time, they had fallen into the ambush of the fire god race, causing them to suffer such heavy losses, which was really unexpected. If not for the fact that Long Yu had constructed the teleportation array early, their losses would have been even greater. Little brother, words cannot express my gratitude for your kindness. To be honest, according to our original plan, this teleportation portal would only open in 3 days. I didn't expect you to be so fast. The burly man nodded at Long Yu and said gratefully, If we can only leave the encirclement after 3 days, I'm afraid we'll only have less than 1,000 brothers left. I'm just completing a mission. When all of you are here, let's go back together. Long Yu nodded. On the teleportation formation, the light of the teleportation formation flashed continuously. Groups after groups of human race rulers appeared within the teleportation formation. These were all people that Long Yu had rescued. Most of the people could tell that they were very grateful and friendly towards Long Yu. However, there were also a few people who looked at Long Yu with hostility. Long Yu could understand how these people felt. Some of their close friends had definitely died in the encirclement of the fire god race, so they hated Long Yu for not coming earlier. However, Long Yu had already done his best. It was already very good that he had been able to save over 6,000 people. Even they hadn't expected that Long Yu would come so quickly. If there were still people who were unhappy with him, then Long Yu had no other choice. It was impossible for everyone in this world to be satisfied with them. Long Yu couldn't care less about what those people thought of him. He only needed to ensure the safety of his own people. As for these people, he only treated them as a mission. Although it was a little cold-blooded to say this way of thinking could help Long Yu avoid a lot of trouble on many occasions. The battlefield wasn't a game. People dying was a common thing. There were some people that Long Yu could save, and he would do his best to save them. However, there were some people who would die regardless of whether Long Yu was there or not. Long Yu couldn't do anything about these people. After all, he wasn't a god. He couldn't care so much. He wasn't even a demigod. Given the current situation, even if a demigod came, how long could he save them in advance? It could be imagined that once the demigod of the demon race appeared, the demigod of the fire god race would also appear. This place would become even more of a stalemate. In the end, no one knew how many people would return alive. Very quickly, human sovereigns began to appear in the teleportation array. The group on this side gradually grew, and finally, the 7th Phase Sovereign Legion commander led the others over. In the entire void, over 6,000 people appeared in front of Long Yu. It could be said that basically everyone who could come was here. The remaining people who didn't escape with the commander of the ruler army were definitely responsible for staying in the encirclement and destroying the teleportation formation that they teleported out from. Otherwise, the experts of the fire god race just needed to follow this teleportation formation and directly chase after them. In that case, the teleportation formation that Long Yu had constructed would be meaningless. Of course, everyone could also choose to destroy the teleportation formation here, but doing so would be very unsafe. If they were a step too slow, the experts of the fire god race would catch up to them. Even a 7th phase great ruler would be able to protect the teleportation formation for a moment. In that moment, even more experts of the fire god race would catch up. In the end, the situation would be the same as before. Therefore, someone had to stay at the other end to destroy the teleportation formation. 300 brothers stayed at the other end to destroy the last teleportation formation for us. The Legion commander shouted and waved his hand. We can return home because of the conditions created by these 300 brave brothers. Now let's rush back. Don't look back. Kill all the people of the fire god race we meet on the way. Don't leave a single one alive. Charge. Kill. The aura of more than 6,000 people roaring at the same time was really deafening, especially when these 6,000 people were all experts of the Sovereign Secret Realm. Among them, many were shedding tears. It was obvious that among the 300 brothers who stayed behind, there might be friends that they knew, close brothers, and so on. The sacrifice of these 300 people was for the survival of more than 6,000 people. No one forced the 300 people to sacrifice themselves. They were all voluntary sacrifices. Among them, many people stayed at the periphery to defend against the attack of the fire god race. The others were in the center to destroy the teleportation formation. In the end, they were all sacrificed together. Although Long Yu didn't see the scene, he could imagine it. If it was Red Oriole, Shu Chan, Lu Yuan, and so on who made such a sacrifice, how would Long Yu feel now? It was also this feeling that made Long Yu constantly strive to become stronger so that such a situation could be prevented from happening at the root. However, he was far from that level now. On the path of martial arts, even if he reached the peak, he might not be able to reach that level unless he could become a demigod. However, not to mention the difficulty of becoming a demigod, even if he became a demigod, would he be able to completely protect the people around him? It was not necessarily so. Demigods also had a death date. When Long Yu saw so many demigod corpses in the ancient ruins of the multi-winged race, he knew that even demigods were not invincible in this world. Even demigods were extremely fragile in front of some existences. He recalled the scene in his dream again. The abyssal dragon emperor, who was soaring in the sky, was smashed by a few pillars of light. He was at the peak of the demigod level, but he was crushed easily by the few pillars of light. His entire body was shattered, and he couldn't resist at all. Other than the real gods, what other existences could do that? I just don't know if the real gods still exist now. If they exist, where are they located? Long Yu sighed in his heart. The Dominator Legion began to set off, rushing back to the territory of the human race. They had to go back as soon as possible. They couldn't afford to lose more people. Of course, Long Yu followed them back. Along the way, he saw many elites of the fire god race being crushed to death by the angry human dominators without the slightest ability to resist. There were even many people who flew in all directions, capturing some of the escaping elites of the fire god race and killing them. In the eyes of the other party, both sides were aliens, and they would fight as soon as they saw each other. There was no need to leave any survivors. Even if they did, the other party wouldn't make any deals with the human race. They would still fight as soon as they saw each other. At this time, Long Yu was the kind of person who couldn't be happier, because he had reached an unparalleled level of compatibility with the ancient Dragonbone Tower. He was able to use the 9 Nether Military Order. Long Yu only needed to seal the corpses of the Fire God race members killed by the human sovereigns into the ancient Dragonbone Tower, and he would be able to transform them into creatures of darkness. The process of turning dark creatures required some time, but it wouldn't take too long. About a day, he could turn a third-phase Great Dominator alien for Long Yu's use. Therefore, in the following part of the journey, Long Yu could be said to have gained a lot. As long as the Fire God race appeared in the vicinity, they would all be killed. Then, Long Yu would seal them in the ancient Dragonbone Tower, waiting for them to be turned into dark creatures. In just a day, the group arrived at the fiery spatial barrier. In the space of Long Yu's ancient Dragonbone Tower, there were already the corpses of 200 elites of the Fire God race. Chapter 1408. To be more precise, the ancient Dragonbone Tower space was filled with the corpses of the Fire God race's elite patrols. With Long Yu's current strength, it would take him at least half a year to turn these corpses into darkness creatures. This speed was undoubtedly a little slow, but Long Yu wasn't in a hurry. In any case, he didn't need these darkness creatures for the time being. He would first turn them one by one, and when he needed them, it would be enough to send a few. After all, these were all third-phase Dominator Realm darkness creatures. Generally speaking, 4 or 5 of them were enough to deal with most of the situations that Long Yu faced. If 4 or 5 couldn't deal with it, then even if Long Yu sent 40 or 50, it might not be enough. There wasn't much meaning. Soon, everyone arrived in front of the fiery spatial barrier. A few 7th-phase Dominator Army commanders and vice-commanders worked together and launched a fierce attack on the barrier. In just a breath's time, the fiery spatial barrier was shattered by the huge force. It couldn't stop the entire ruler army at all. There were many Fire God race warriors nearby, as if they were monitoring their movements. However, a small team from the ruler army quickly rushed forward and killed all the Fire God race warriors. These ordinary Fire God race warriors were only 1st or 2nd phase dominators. Most of them were only upper and middle dominators. Long Yu couldn't be bothered to seal these corpses. Even if they were turned into darkness creatures, they wouldn't have much combat power. He had a lot of 3rd phase Dominator corpses now, so he didn't need to seal these weaker existences. The ruler army was like a hot knife through butter. They wiped out all the Fire God race warriors they encountered along the way. "Little brother, are you going back to hand in the mission now?" The burly army commander came to Long Yu's side and asked Long Yu. Although he had escaped, he didn't have a smile on his face. After all, his ruler army had sacrificed too much this time. They had lost almost a third of their manpower. Compared to handing in the mission, I have something more important to do. Long Yu shook his head and said in a deep voice, "I wonder if Senior knows where Commander Long Zaiqian is now? I heard that he seems to be carrying out a strategic deployment in an area nearby." "The commander of the Heavenly Dragon Army? I know where he is, but our army is going back to rest now. If you want to find the commander of the Heavenly Dragon Army, I can give you a jade slip with his current coordinates recorded in it." The Legion commander didn't ask Long Yu why he was looking for Long Zaiqian and what his relationship with Long Zaiqian was, because he knew that it had nothing to do with him. Long Yu had come ahead of time to complete the strategic mission and save the majority of the ruler's army, making him very grateful. Helping Long Yu out a little was something he should do. "Thank you, Senior." Long Yu nodded and let out a sigh of relief. He had finally found where Long Zaiqian was. In any case, it would be easier to find him in the nearby starfield. However, now that the Ruler Legion had forcefully escaped the encirclement, the Fire God race would probably be furious. It was very likely that they would search everywhere. Long Yu had to be more careful while searching for Long Zaiqian. After getting the news about Long Zaiqian, Long Yu separated from the ruler's army. There was no point in continuing to follow them. Long Yu traveled alone and once again returned to the lonely state he had been in at the beginning. Very soon, within a radius of tens of thousands of miles, not a single figure appeared. Whether it was the human race or the Fire God race, they were quite scattered in this area. However, it might not be certain after a while. The Fire God race was likely to send a large force to search for the ruler's army, or even intercept them, but that had nothing to do with Long Yu. Logically speaking, the ruler's army had already run so far away, so the Fire God race shouldn't be able to catch up. Long Yu shook his head and threw the matter of the ruler's army to the back of his mind. Then, he followed the starfield coordinates recorded in the jade slip and headed towards Long Zaiqian's location alone. Only now did Long Yu know that the ruler's army commanded by Long Zaiqian was called the Heavenly Dragon Army. It seemed to be a very famous army in the human race's territory. Long Yu was indifferent to this. He just wanted to see his so-called father and ask him why he abandoned him and his mother and came to the beyond heaven world alone. In 2 days, Long Yu traveled hundreds of millions of miles in the starry sky and finally approached the starfield coordinates recorded in the Jade Slip. When he arrived at this place, Long Yu had a different feeling. It seemed that the void was filled with a kind of oppressive aura. He looked around, including after activating the balanced light. He used his spiritual awareness to sense the surroundings, but he didn't find the existence of anything. This made him a little confused. Could it be that the Heavenly Dragon Army commanded by Long Zaiqian was not here? He had already arrived near the center of the coordinates, but he didn't see anyone. Or perhaps the Heavenly Dragon Army had already completed their strategic deployment and returned to the battlefield fortress. Feeling the oppressive aura in this starfield, Long Yu became more and more confused. It was obvious that something had happened in this place, but he couldn't tell what it was. Transform into nothingness. Long Yu had no choice. In order to prevent any accidents from happening, he directly transformed into nothingness and hid in the nothingness space, completely disappearing from this void. After entering the nothingness space, Long Yu began to carefully observe his surroundings. He found that this place seemed to have been set up with some kind of magic formation trap. The oppressive aura came from the magic formation trap hidden in the dark. Although he didn't know what kind of magic formation trap it was, Long Yu was sure that it definitely existed in this space. Obviously, the Heavenly Dragon Army's previous strategic deployment was to set up a magic formation trap here. However, as for why this magic formation trap was set up, Long Yu had no idea. Long Yu had no idea where the people of the Heavenly Dragon Army had gone. The only thing he could do now was to hide in this place and see what would happen in this place. However, he didn't hide for long before he saw 2 figures suddenly appear out of thin air in this void. They were 2 human cultivators with the cultivation of a rank 3 great ruler. Looking at their attire, they should belong to the alien battlefield legion. As for which legion, Long Yu didn't know. Could be the Heavenly Dragon Army? After these 2 people appeared out of thin air, they seemed to be a little confused. They looked around and saw that there was no one around, so they scratched their heads. Strange, I just saw a figure here. Why did he suddenly disappear? We can't be wrong. Someone must have come. I don't know which human kid it is. Now that he is hiding, we can't find him at all. It seems that he is very good at hiding. The 2 of them looked at each other and nodded. Then, it seemed as if they were going to use some sort of method to find out who was hiding nearby. Of course, they were looking for Long Yu. Long Yu's heart moved. He didn't wait for the other party to use any method. He immediately appeared and flew out of the void. You two, I'm here. I accepted a strategic mission and came here. Are the 2 of you members of the Heavenly Dragon Army? After Long Yu appeared, he asked the 2 people directly. However, he didn't go near them because he wasn't sure where they stood. In any case, Long Yu was the most cautious person. He wouldn't put himself in any danger if he wasn't certain. When the 2 of them saw Long Yu appear out of thin air, they were stunned for a moment. Then, they were incomparably amazed, because they never expected that the person who had hidden himself in the vicinity, the one they couldn't find, was actually a human youth with a higher sovereign realm cultivation. Without a doubt, Long Yu's martial arts realm shocked the 2 people once again. However, these 2 people were also people who had seen the world. They didn't stay stunned for too long. One of them immediately reacted and said to Long Yu with a solemn expression, "Our strategic deployment is a secret. How could you have received a strategic mission?" At the same time, the other person said to this person through divine consciousness, "I can feel the demigod aura of the demon race from this kid. It should be enough to prove that he isn't an alien race in disguise." The demigod aura he sensed naturally came from the first-class honor badge in Long Yu's hand. Long Yu showed it and said, "All right, to be honest, I accepted another strategic mission and came to this area. I also wanted to find my father, Long Zaiqian. Is he here?" This was a big piece of news. The 2 people were dumbfounded. Father? Long Zaiqian? Wasn't their army commander always single? Why did he suddenly have a son? However, looking at the genuine first-class honor badge in Long Yu's hand, it couldn't be forged. Such a person shouldn't be joking about such a thing. Come in with us first. We are from the Sky Dragon Army. If you want to see Commander Long, we will go and inform him first. One of them said to Long Yu. Next, he waved his hand towards Long Yu. A wave of world energy suddenly enveloped Long Yu's body, wanting to bring him to another space. Now, Long Yu finally understood why he couldn't see any people from the Sky Dragon Army here. It turned out that the entire Sky Dragon Army was located in another small world. The small world mark had some kind of hiding function, so there was no trace of anyone in the entire void. Long Yu could be said to be struggling now. He was still a little worried that the other party wasn't from the Sky Dragon Army. However, on second thought, if the other party really had evil intentions, he only needed to take out the 9 Hell Tablet, and it would be enough to solve everything. Let's go. Long Yu nodded and didn't resist the world energy. Then, he followed the 2 people and completely disappeared from a void. Chapter 1409. What appeared in front of Long Yu was a fortress-like building suspended in the void. The whole thing seemed to be made of steel, and one could tell that its defense was extremely strong. The whole building was not the slightest bit smaller than a battlefield fortress. In terms of aura, it even surpassed some battlefield fortresses. This is the base of our Heavenly Dragon Corps. The commander is inside. Come in and take a rest first. We will go and inform you. The 2 patrolmen who led Long Yu and said to Long Yu. One of them stayed behind to bring him over, while the other disappeared in a flash. Long Yu knew that they used the power of this small world. They could appear anywhere in this small world at any time. They should have gone to inform Long Zaition. As for Long Yu, he followed the other person to the location of the steel fortress. Along the way, he saw many patrolmen passing by, and they all looked over strangely. Then, the person who led Long Yu explained to these people one by one, saying that he was the son of Long Zaition's commander, and that he had come to look for someone. As soon as this was said, everyone had a surprised expression. It was obvious that no one knew that Long Zaition actually had a son. This was extremely explosive news. Long Yu was also convinced by these people's gossiping heart. Could it be that Long Zaition could tolerate others talking about him behind his back? Soon, Long Yu was brought into the steel fortress by that person. A burst of killing aura hit him in the face, making Long Yu feel full of solemnity. This was a battlefield. Long Yu could feel that an extremely bloody battle had taken place in this steel fortress. The bloodstains left on the walls, the dents that were smashed, and so on all represented that a battle had taken place here. These traces of battle could obviously be removed, but they were not removed. Obviously, they wanted to leave them as a warning or memento. Long Yu understood this mentality. After all, there wasn't a single moment that was absolutely safe on the battlefield of the foreign races. Although the steel fortress seemed to be very safe, no one could let their guard down. Otherwise, a disaster might befall them. Long Yu was brought to a relatively simple room. Then the guide smiled and said, "Please wait for a moment. We have already brought the news to the commander. If there are no accidents, he will come to see you soon." "Thank you." Long Yu nodded his head. Then, he walked around the room, sizing it up. Even in this simple guest room, there were many traces of battle. For example, near the central stone table and stone bench, there was a lot of blood stains. There were also some signs of corrosion, which should have been left behind by previous battles. It seemed that this steel fortress had been invaded by enemies before, but they had been repelled by the Heavenly Dragon Legion. Although they had been repelled, they had also left behind many sacrifices. These sacrifices also served as a warning to the remaining people that they could not let their guard down at any time. In just 20 years, Long Zaiqian left the Heavenly Mandate continent and the realm of 9 serenities and came to the Outer Heavens world. At the very most, he owned this steel fortress and became the commander of the army on the battlefield in just over 10 years. Long Yu thought to himself with a slightly complicated feeling. He had always heard that Long Zaiqian was his father. As for this, he had only heard it from people on the Heavenly Mandate continent. From the clan leader of the Tang Empire Jinting clan, by Yunzong, the clan leader of the Feng family, Feng Chang'e, as well as the Mo family, the Long family, the Chu family, and so on. Long Yu learned everything about his father, Long Zaijian. But after leaving the Heavenly Mandate Island, he never heard any news about Long Zaijian until he met the Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor from the Ascetic Alliance in the Holy City of the Five Emperors. Even the Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor could not tell Long Yu about Long Zaijian and disappeared. Later, when Long Yu came to the Outer Heavens world, he finally got news about Long Zaijian after the end of the battle with the Ice God clan on the battlefield of the alien race. It had been at least half a year since he started looking for him. Long Zaijian led the army of the ruler on the battlefield of the alien race. It was said that he had been there for more than 5 years. In these 5 years, he had made a name for himself and became one of the heroes near the border of the human clan. For such a person, in addition to his obsession to find his father, Long Yu was also curious about him. He did not know how Long Zaijian, who had been trapped in the Heavenly Prison Thunder Pool, had escaped and made it all the way to this day. Long Yu waited quietly. Although there was someone next to him, there was no more communication between them. Only that person kept looking at Long Yu. Suddenly, that person said in surprise, "By the way, I heard that there was a boy named Long Yu who killed 3 demigods of the alien race in the Demon Clan's territory. Is that you?" Long Yu was a little surprised. He had never said that his name was Long Yu. "Yes, it's me. How did you know?" Long Yu was a little curious. "You said that you're the son of the commander, so your surname is most likely Long. You also have a first-class honor badge. In recent years, you're the only one who meets this condition." The man chuckled. As expected, a tiger father will not beget a dog son. The son of a commander is also a dragon among men. With that, before Long Yu could say anything, an impatient voice suddenly came from outside the room. "What the hell? What the hell? What tiger father, dog son? I don't remember having a son." As this clear voice came into the room, a young man in a white robe appeared at the door and stepped into the room with narrowed eyes. As soon as he saw this person, Long Yu knew immediately that this was the person he was looking for. Long Zaijian. Of course, Long Yu didn't know this from the fact that they were related by blood, but from the other party's appearance. It had to be said that the person in front of him looked extremely similar to Long Yu. Especially those eyes, they seemed to be carved from the same mold. "Lord Commander, it's not that I want to say this, but look at this kid. He looks exactly like you. I don't believe that he's not your son," the patrolling soldier who brought Long Yu over said with a strange expression. When he heard Long Zaijian deny it like this, he thought to himself, could it be that there are many other things involved? "Of course, Lord Commander, you can solve your own matters. We'll take our leave first. Hee hee." The person didn't dare to gossip. After saying this, he immediately turned around and left the room. "Get lost." The white-clothed youth slightly raised his eyelids and waved his hand to let the person leave. Then, he turned around and started to examine Long Yu again. Hearing him say "get lost" didn't have any insulting nature. It was like a joke between brothers, and it made people feel close. Long Yu didn't expect Long Zaijian to have such a personality. He looked delicate and pretty, but he was a bit carefree. It seemed that even those third phase Dominator Patrol soldiers dared to make fun of him. It seems that Long Zaijian is quite approachable, Long Yu thought to himself. However, this didn't affect his resentment towards Long Zaijian. No matter how you looked at it, Long Zaijian wasn't seriously injured and on the verge of death, nor was he forced to lose his freedom. There was no reason for him to abandon his wife and son. What's more, this guy didn't seem to want to admit that he had a son. "You look a lot like me." Long Zaijian swept a few glances at Long Yu as he spoke lazily. "You don't want to admit it?" Long Yu couldn't be bothered to say anything more to him and asked him directly, "How do you want this commander to admit to something that doesn't have a son?" Long Zaijian suddenly became energetic. He opened his eyes and quickly walked in front of Long Yu. Come. Tell me, which girl especially admires this commander and wants to become this commander's wife? That's why she asked you to act out this play?" When Long Yu heard this, he immediately opened his eyes wide. Did this guy really think that, or was he joking? If he really thought that way, how narcissistic was he? Of course, Long Yu also admitted that a handsome guy like him, coupled with Long Zaiqian's proud battlefield achievements and legends, was indeed able to attract the admiration of many girls. Cough, cough. Long Yu hurriedly shook his head. What the hell was he thinking? However, Long Yu really didn't know how to answer Long Zaiqian's question. He could only change the topic and ask, do you want to act shamelessly, or do you not remember what happened back then? 9 Serenity's realm, heavenly mandate continent. Long Yu directly mentioned these 2 words, and then carefully observed Long Zaiqian's reaction. If the other party was pretending, then Long Yu would most likely be able to see through it. But what made Long Yu disappointed was that when Long Zaiqian heard Long Yu's words, he didn't have any special reaction. Instead, he laughed out loud. I'm still in the Great Ming Realm's Lotus Continent. Haha. Like you, this commander has already encountered many times. Come. If you want to have any ideas about this commander, it's really a bit difficult. How about this? I'll give you some cultivation elixirs. In the future, don't take the risk to find this commander. How about it? After all, the battlefield of the alien race is too dangerous. It's not every time you can smoothly find this commander. Long Yu really didn't expect that when he came over and saw Long Zaiqian, it would actually be such a situation. Was this guy an idiot? Where was the legendary mighty and domineering heroic spirit of the dragon in the sky? Why didn't Long Yu feel a bit of it? Long Yu carefully stared at Long Zaiqian's eyes. He couldn't help but say that this pair of eyes was really handsome. However, Long Yu didn't see any awkwardness in them. This Long Zaiqian seemed to be born with this kind of personality. Right now, it didn't seem like he was acting at all. This made Long Yu feel extremely strange. Then it's settled. This commander will make a move first. The strategic deployment here is still waiting for the prey to take the bait. I can't miss a good show. Long Zaiqian took 2 steps back, smiled at Long Yu, and waved his hand. He turned around and wanted to leave the room. With his cultivation of a level 7 great sovereign, if he wanted to leave, Long Yu simply couldn't stop him. But when he walked to the door of the room, he stopped in his tracks. Speaking of which, Long Zaiqian's clear voice sounded again. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.